Hello! How are we all doing? Hopefully you'll be able to hear me. Time will tell, but it's busy in the chat, isn't it? Kim was in first. Hello, Kim. Followed by Patience. Hello, Patience. And Pete is in the house. Excellent. Who else do we have? Oh, good. Graham's in the house. And Carol, second time today, Carol. Who else have we got? Jonathan! It's young Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Peter. And Pandemonium. And, of course, Poppy and Diesel. Wouldn't be a show without Poppy and Diesel, would it? Our girl's a bit quiet, isn't she?
She's asleep.
Overindulged herself this afternoon, I can assure you.
She's had a busy time with COVID.
She has, yes. Not that she's had COVID. Well, she has had COVID, but COVID's her ball. It's a long story. But if you've been with us a while, you'll know exactly what we mean. Who else have we got? Joe's in the house.
Here.
Hello, Deborah. Good to have you with us. And have I got everybody? Have I missed anybody? If you're lurking quietly and you're not in the chat, hello. Hello to you as well. What a week is all I'm going to say. And I'm going to get right into it. We've got a lot to cover tonight. It's been a busy week in tech, which makes a change. It's usually quite quiet at the beginning of the year. But there you go. Right, let's move on there then. Can we all see everything? Let me check. You can all see everything. Fantastic. Right, so we've got the week at MacBites headquarters. What a week it's been. There was an update to Snagit. Now, if you know me, you know I take a lot of screenshots and I have a lot of different apps to do it because there's things that Snagit can do and there's things that Snagit can't do. That's why we have ScreenFloat. But this update was rather nice. I'm trying to think, did I do it a different way? I was doing it much more manually than this new tool. So this is going to be interesting. Then I've got some news of the Affinity 2.1 beta updates. Something simple it's life-changing. Simple, but life-changing. Then this week was Canva Create. So there's a lot of new features being added to Canva. So I thought we would have a look at that. Then I've got a couple of freebies, one of which going to form the basis of a demo. So make sure you download that. And then we've got more advanced template options in Obsidian. So we've done the basics. You can put the date in, stuff like that. There will be code. You've been warned. But I'll keep it as simple as I possibly can. So that's the plan anyway. Oh, now nothing's moving. Oh, it's going to be one of those weeks, is it? Seriously, nothing is moving. Right, that's better. Okay, we're broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you're watching in 1080p. Had me down to 360 the other day. I wondered why it looked like a pea soup fog. But do you know, no matter how many times that happens, I'm like, it's a bit rough, isn't it? And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, you didn't check at the bottom. So the cog is on the bottom of the video on the right-hand side, handily placed near the like button. Just saying. Weirdness happened last week, didn't it, Mike? But at the end of the show, yes, we had 15 likes.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time Mike went back in, it dropped to 5. And they never came back. So I think YouTube were in a mood. I don't know why. So let's travel back in time to last Saturday. Last Saturday, in the small hours, it was the big day. If you have been with us over the last few, I would say weeks, but it has stretched to months, hasn't it, Peter? Peter's pleading pooches were rather upset that something that was teasing Peter hadn't actually arrived. So that was the state of play. But I announced that the next day, this was Friday, so Saturday was the big day. And indeed, Saturday was the big day. I didn't make any promises as to time, if you recall, because I said that YouTube can take hours to process a 4K video. They surpassed themselves. By the time I'd finished the metadata, it was done. So you uploaded yours later, didn't you? So we could do a comparison, and yours still took an hour. No idea what's going on there. Mike's was only 5 minutes and mine was 16 and a half. Not a clue, but it arrived. So I did threaten to hold the video hostage until all suitable joy was expressed, if you recall. Well, happy to report, Peter's extremely pleased pooches did not disappoint. Look at that face. And yes, the dirty hack was done. They're adorable. They're absolutely adorable. In fact, there was even serenading going on, hence the mouth being blurred. That happens a lot with Lola. Used to happen a lot with Maya as well, didn't it? We've got a lot of pictures with him with his mouth open because he never shut up. So there was a vocal welcome for the great event. I'm not sure if they were more thrilled about the video or the fact that Peter could finally rest, but hey-ho. Now, remember this went live at 28 minutes past 3 in the morning. So I thought, how could I possibly let Peter know it was live? So I did contemplate contacting him. But I thought, don't be ridiculous, woman. It's 3:30 in the morning. But guess what happened? Peter, what were you doing? Were you waiting for it? He was up earlier than expected, commenting at 11 minutes past 4. Seriously, Peter, what was going on? So as I say, Peter then said I should have contacted him and he would have been the first to view it, not the fourth. So 9 minutes and he was there. So I've taken that as permission to wake Peter at any time whatsoever to inform him of new videos. He will live to regret this, I'm confident. But apparently pre-flight and the secret note to self system was everything that everybody wanted. As YouTube informed me that I'd got, I think I was about 120 off 23,000, but it happened on Saturday, the day the video was released. So thank you to each and every one of you who have subscribed. I'm starting the big push to 25,000 now. And yet again, I've not turned my notifications off, have I? What am I like with my notification? Anything could be coming up there, you know. Anything. But I'll put it on DND. There we go. It's usually backups or that scan starting. So as I said, we're starting the push to 25,000 now. So if you're not subscribed, do subscribe.
Can I make a big announcement here?
Go on.
Something that's in the chat.
Yes.
Jammy's announced that he's here.
Jammy, hello. Well, we did say hello to everybody else. Jammy was just at the gym, wasn't he, or dawdling? You were dawdling somewhere. We also know that Renee's missing, don't we?
Yeah.
Mike's been stalking him on Facebook. So we know exactly where you are, Renee. But never mind. You can make up for it later. So, did the next thing to know, the next most important thing of the week, is how did Tesco do? Don't ask. We wanted cauliflower and broccoli. See at the top, big cauliflower. That's how they sell cauliflower. And broccoli. Now, out of stock means it can't be ordered. So we weren't even allowed to order the cauliflower and the broccoli. You can only order the expensive, hand-picked, individually hand-wrapped in gold foil floret version. That's the ones at the bottom. That's the quickest way to bankrupt yourself. Anyway, when they decided to tell us what was coming on or what wasn't, they were out of stock of the individually hand-wrapped in gold foil floret versions. I couldn't wait to see what the replacement was. Yep, you've guessed it, standard broccoli and standard cauliflower. It's enough to make you consider an increasingly viable alternative, isn't it? Yes, Lola's got the right idea. Lola would be thrilled to see her personal robot rock up at MacBites headquarters. Don't know whether the robot would be quite so thrilled. So, on to Sunday. Massive day on Sunday. It's the FA Cup. If you're not in the know, that's not the Tim Pot, is it, Mike? That's the FA Cup, and the FA Cup is an important cup. If you've never seen the FA Cup, we've actually handled it, haven't we?
We have.
More than once, I think. Or was that the European? That could have been the European. I think I have handled the FA Cup. Got a photograph somewhere with it, and you've got a photograph with it, haven't you? These photographs were taken on the same day. If we could dig them out, I've no idea where
Mine's
mine
the
is.
loft.
Oh, no, I can't remember where mine is.
In a photo album.
I think it's with my photos from when I was 16. We were both 16. Only when you look at these photos side by side, you looked at I looked at the one of you, and you looked about 12, and you looked at the one of me and said, "Oh my God, you look like you're in your early 20s." But we were both 16. So that is not the tin pot. It's so important, this cup, that it ended in a mass brawl. Not that that's unusual lately, is it? This is at least the third mass brawl we've had. But this one was bad because the game was not going well. As you can see there, Fulham were 1-up at this stage, with only 18 minutes to go. which was when the wheels came off. 3 sendings off, including the manager, in 40 seconds, which takes some doing. So with them, with 2 players down and the manager in the changing room, United had an amazing comeback. But I did say to you, didn't I? It's all very well, this. It sounds great. You won 3-1. It was shocking. It was a shocking performance. We won't go any further if we play like that. But it's important because since Hillsborough, the semi-finals are at the home of football, Wembley Stadium. So we've got to get to Wembley. And now we are in the semi-finals, we are actually going to Wembley. It's going to cost a fortune, isn't it? Well, we're not going, but, the fans are going to Wembley. So Wembley is, as I say, the home of football. And I remember my first time at Wembley, do you?
I remember my first time.
Mine was the Milk Cup, which was the tin pot of its day, in 1983. What about you?
FA Cup 1983.
Oh, I beat you. I beat you by a couple of months. The difference was we lost to Liverpool. So I didn't really have the best of days. And my dad never stopped moaning. And were you there for the actual game or the replay?
The first game.
Oh, so Mike didn't see them win either. No. Luckily, we have been since, haven't we? And we have seen them win at Wembley. So who are we playing? Talking of 83, Brighton. They were who we played in 83. It took 2 goals to beat them, but we did. Not predicting a win this time, though, as they got through their quarter-final 5-0. Imagine they were playing Grimsby. So maybe. But Brighton have become giant killers at the moment, so I'm still not hopeful. So I started the week with grand plans. Serious re-engineering. Serious re-engineering of what? Well, it was in the recording studio stroke podcast department. Let's just say that. So Tuesday was a big day. Mike's wondering what Tuesday was now, but Tuesday was a big day. In fact, it's such a big day at MacBites headquarters that Mike starts reminding me of it on Sunday. It was bin day. Now, you're thinking bin day, well, how can that be exciting? Well, to you and I, it's a bin. But locally, it's a hot potato of seething anger. There have even been threats of bin audits. I know you think I'm joking, if only I were. Because that is the grey bin. Obviously, you can see behind it the black bin and the blue bin, and there's a green one somewhere. But the grey bin is, and I quote, real rubbish. It's where you put stuff that is not recyclable. This is why it's such a hot potato. So people got letters, over 3,500 households, threatening to have the contents of their bins audited to see if they need a big bin. We don't have a big bin anymore, do we?
We don't.
I thought everybody had the small bins that we have. They're half size, these bins. But when Dad got ill, you because there's like bandage waste and stuff, you get a big bin. So we were thrilled. Double the size of the bin. But then they took it away again. So that's what they're talking about. But yes, anyone can march up apparently from the council and inspect your bins. It's like Russia, isn't it? So what interested me about that story was, have you seen who wrote it? The crime reporter.
Oh.
It's either a slow week on the crime desk or them auditing your bins is a crime. What a classic. So also on that day, I had a workshop. So I did a weekly and monthly review workshop and then put my feet up to enjoy the Adobe Firefly event. Who watched that? It's basically Adobe's AI. So they've jumped on the AI bandwagon. Ask it for an image and it'll create it for you. I didn't have long enough to tinker with it though. Since prior engagement, had a hot microphone calling, no less. And after that, that was followed by a hot editing app. So the burning question was, to use Hindenburg Pro 2 Beta for the edit or not? I pondered, I considered. I thought that would be complete insanity. Needless to say, FOMO won. So, started the edit. And it was all going really well. Until I got clever. It crashed. Unceremoniously. So, lesson learnt. Making a suitable grovelling apology to Hindenburg 1, I crawled back there and finished the edits. Which meant I did discover that the version 2 file format is backwards compatible with version 1, which was just as well, or there wouldn't have been a show. So the only thing I lost in this mass crash and moving back to version 1 was the clip colour, for which read it could have been much, much, much worse. And just in case you're wondering, I've learnt my lesson. Until the next time, of course. But it did mean on Wednesday... we need a drum roll, Mike. Thank you. There was a MacBites. Yes, first one of the year. It's only March. I think you'll find last year it took till September, so we're actually ahead of ourselves. A new episode of MacBites. Who's heard it? Let me know in the chat.
Jamie has. He said, listen to his first official MacBites. Loved it.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
And Kimmy has.
That was great fun.
Pete wants to know if it's easier to edit in version 2.
Easier in what way? I said to Mike, it felt a bit smoother. It opened instantly. Normally you've got maybe 2-3 seconds. This was just there. It opened. The interface for editing is actually quite different. The main difference that you'll see is on the timeline, the clips themselves are now the full height of however tall you have each track. Previously, the height indicated the volume. Now that is still there, but the clip itself is full height and the volume is indicated within the clip. So that's one of the biggest differences. And I think the other difference that I must admit I did not notice at all until I switched back to version 1 is that the clipboard on the right hand side where you store your not recently used, the elements of your story. So if you think about it, I have the Siri clips in there, I've got the Siri sketch in there, I've got sound effects in there that are used like dun 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 and stuff like that. They are much bigger in version 2. So when I went back to version 1, I thought, whoa, my eye's gone. And the titles are much smaller, but the thing is, it does let you see more than the new one. The thing is in version 2, which is great, when you're looking for a clip, so early on in the show, I was looking for the ooh. There's a search now at the top, so you don't even actually need to know where it is. So no, it's no more difficult to edit. Is it easier to edit? Depends what you mean by easier. I would say it's equally as easy. I'm sure there are features that will make it easier. It depends in what exact way. So let me know. Once I'd done the show and then the show was going live, I'm sure I had issues with scripts again, didn't I? There was issues. There's always issues. But Mike headed off. Yes, he was heading off to Canada again. The Toronto user group. Only this time, you were presenting, weren't you?
I was.
So what did you present?
I presented on using Excel on the Mac.
Oh, the Mac one.
Workarounds and gotchas.
Yes. It's always the way, isn't it? Always the way. Which took us through to Thursday. So, let's travel back a couple of weeks. Who remembers Marooned at MacBites headquarters 3 years in? We celebrated 3 years of Marooned at MacBites headquarters with a show. We gave plenty of notice, as previously requested. I think that was because, didn't we spring the original reunion on them with like 20 minutes notice? There was lots of notice this time, but guess what? Some folks still missed it. There were tears. And that's before we mention Peter forgetting that there was an audio feed. But in his defence, he was suffering severe exhaustion after all the pleading for the Dirty Hack video. But the cry went up for a replay, an on-demand version. Now, originally, Marooned was only ever intended to be a live thing, but you also demanded a feed for that as well. So the original 500 shows were made available on demand. So on Thursday, I edited all the special shows that we've had since the summer of 2021. And the complete set is now available. It's a bingeable box set, Peter. Best consumed with ice cream, just saying. So we have in the special shows the first reunion, So Marooned ended the end of July 2021, didn't it, at show 500? But we did have a reunion in December. That was the one that some people missed. Then we had another one 2 years in. So that was the 16th of March 2022. We then had a special for 1,000 days in, which was the 1st of December last year. And the one that some of you missed, which was this 3-year anniversary. So you will need to go. Well, actually, no. What you'll need to do is get that link and paste it into your podcast app of choice and listen to any special shows that you'd like to listen to. They will be on the website in the end, but I've not done that yet. And there is a good reason for that. That was because Ulysses is playing with my mind. And that's how we get posts up there. But it will happen. It'll happen. Oh, yes, and the thing to think about, because all the shows are on that feed, if you were to want to try the MacBites, the Marooned at MacBites headquarters marathon, that's the link you'll need for that. So, all of that meant, in a week, I'd got 1 video up, an episode of MacBites, that's a miracle in itself, 4 episodes of Marooned Process, 2 after hours done, and 5 blog posts. My achievements for the week were prolific. What I didn't have time for was ice cream and box set binging. Straight back at you, Peter. But I did have time to attend Canva Create. Who else attended Canva Create? It was an epic show. I think it was about 1 hour 40. Live from Sydney. There were more presenters than an Apple event. I did lose track, I'll be totally honest with you. But it was probably worth seeing. There is a video on demand. Don't bother with the video, just watch the highlights. Because there was a lot of, what would we say? Time wasting?
Yeah.
Piddling about?
Waffling.
Waffling? There was. To be honest, there was. So I was twitchy during it and I couldn't work out why. And then when it finished, I thought, I know why. Because that was live and usually I listen to everything at least 2 speed. The current book I'm listening to is 2.5 speed and the last book was 3 speed. So actually watching something, no wonder it felt slow to me, but there you go. So that took us to Friday. Brace yourselves. I've saved the best till last. I had my Captain's Table Mastermind and I'm sure Carol will agree. Mine's blown as usual. But while that was going on, the system started mithering me and was telling me that I had updates to everything from Adobe. So I did all my updates. I did Bridge yesterday, but I did all my updates and I've no idea what's new yet. So I'll have to go and have a look at that. But never mind. So here's the highlights of the week. The robot watch continues. It's been hysterical. Our little shop round the corner has been on the local news and the national news, you name it. So it's like, don't set foot over the doorstep. Not that I ever do, but don't set foot over the doorstep or you'll be on national TV. So it started with rumours of uncontrolled cloning of said robots. Actually true. 7 was the maximum seen in one location last week, but we did smash that number this week. This could well be the national squad, to be honest. This is our local team. That's our co-op, the one that's been all over the TV. So that is our local co-op. Do you know when I moved in, it wasn't a co-op. It was an independent one and it's got sold 1 million times because it was a Spar at one point, wasn't it?
It was.
Good job the co-op bought it. I'm assuming it's one of the biggest in the area and that's why they've got the robots. But you can see people still taking pictures of them. So that's the local team. One of them was this one. It's just as well they've got so many robots since Mike and Lola encountered one that was clearly lost. This is the local park. Nobody lives there that we're aware of. So unless it was taking a shortcut...
Just passing through.
Just passing through the park, as you do, out for a stroll. However, it did decide to make a strategic withdrawal as Lola strained at her lead to offer assistance. She was all for guiding it. And there was a classic photo in the local paper. I thought the juxtaposition of like the old and the new. While the tech's very similar, shopping on wheels, the lady's probably going to be faster. But she's not getting all the attention right now, is she? The little robots are. So that's one literally just setting off on its way 20 metres from the local store. You use your phone to open it as that. You said it could take 3 bags, didn't you? Which surprised me.
That's what it said, yeah.
It doesn't look like it would, but apparently it does. So that was raiding the robot on its arrival. It's not fazed by people at all. It just carries on like it's a dog or something. It's crazy. Nor is it fazed by stupidly parked cars, one of my pet peeves. Cars parked on the pavement. But it's coping admirably. Then I spotted this one. Not all the dogs were as friendly or as curious as Lola. Look at that face. Looks so grumpy. Now, we have a MacBites exclusive. Can I have another drum roll, please? A MacBites exclusive. Apologies for the dodgy filming in the middle. That was you, wasn't it? But let's have a look at it. So can you see it in the distance where Bollard Gate was? In the distance there. So this was Mike having spotted it. Heads up, this is the dodgy bit, as he was trying to run across the road to keep an eye on it. But there it sits in the middle. You are not legally obliged to stop. And even if you do, it ignores you. So it just sits there and waits. And that's a fairly busy main road. It also is full of potholes, as you can see. So it sits there and waits. It's aware of what's coming from both directions. There's a video on their site. But I guess you thought you were going to be there a while. But luckily there was a break in the traffic and it went forward a bit, had a think about it and then got a spurt on. You can see the pavement's actually quite low there. So at this stage, you didn't know if it was going to turn right or left, did you? But then it turned round towards you. It's like a Dalek.
Kim's made a point. Not good for ice cream delivery.
No, it's definitely not. So it skirted you quite effectively, didn't it? Look at the top of the screen. That's the idiot parked outside my house on the pavement. And you can see this one is heading towards that car. But it did twig that there was something in its way. And it did get round it. It stopped and had a think and then carried on. So that's the exclusive. Oh, what a week. I mean, everybody that's seen one is stood there with their phone recording it, aren't they? I'm sure it'll die in the end. Just doubtless as Amazon decide to bring in those drone delivery. Can you imagine drone delivery? There'll be car crashes when that happens as people stop to take video of the drones. So there we go. I don't like cars on the drive, on the pavement, because while the robot can get past, you struggle with a double buggy. And that one actually isn't on the pavement that much. I've seen them on the pavement where they are literally where the robot is and no one's getting past. But there you go. So, fun with the robots. Let's move on and look at Snagit 2023 and the fabulous update. Peter has a starring role in this as well. He's becoming one of the crew, really, isn't he? Peter's wondering why now. Don't panic, it's not a problem. Snagit 2023 came out late last year. They run a maintenance programme. So I think, was the last update £12? I'm sure it was £12.
Something like that.
That may include VAT or it may not. I don't know. Can't remember. But it's more than cost effective. I use this every day. So because it's on maintenance, they don't hang about bringing out updates for it, which is fortunate. It's not exactly subscription because you can stop paying and you can carry on using. But there is maintenance. And as far as I'm concerned, it's worth it. So I did mention that I've got lots of different apps for taking screen captures because there isn't one that does everything. Some have got nicer annotations than others. In Snagit, you can bend an arrow, but it doesn't have a tapering arrow to the end. So all of them have some kind of functionality. I probably use about 3 or 4 a lot, and I've probably got about 6 or 8. But Snagit is the most feature-rich of them, I would say. So let's go and have a look at Snagit. So I've got a screenshot that I've already taken, and it particularly when it thinks about it. There we go. I'll show you the finished thing first. So that looks like it was a screenshot taken. It was for the presentation, and it looks like, well, you've not made any edits on that. Actually, I have. That's one of the things that Snagit absolutely excels at. That is taking a screenshot and completely editing it. Literally, you can edit everything about it. With this one, I took elements away that weren't necessary. So that's what I ended up with. But if we look at the original, it just looked a bit busy. You've got this sent to the channel, you've got the times on it, you've got this stuff telling you the name of it. It just couldn't breathe. So that's what I took, that's what I turned it into. So you can see it's actually bigger. It wasn't a case of taking something away, it was actually bigger. So how did I go about that? Well, I'll show you with this one. So what I do in here is that's the original that I've taken. So the first thing that I do is duplicate it. That gives me a working copy of it. If it all goes wrong, I can go back to the original. Now, there is a feature in here where you can restore the original, but I don't ever rely on that. Plus the fact for demonstrations like this, it's better that I've got access to an exact copy of it. So let's have a look what I did first of all. Okay, let's start off with removing things. So this has been there since forever. I have all the tools that are in here across the top, all of them. I don't, with this one, make any attempt whatsoever to remember the shortcuts. Life's too short, there's too many of them. So drawing around with the selection tool, and hang on, that selection, that's not what I wanted to do, is it? Or is it? Yes, that's right. So with this one, for ages, I had it inadvertently set that when I press delete, I ended up with nothing. So what happens with that is I press delete and you can see I literally there have transparency on it. All right, don't do that. In the tool properties, if you want to delete something, if you do want it transparent, fine. But if you put autofill on, it's genius. It will actually fill it in for you. So as I take something away, it fills it. It looks around what I'm taking away and it deletes it. So if I want that gone, same principle. Look around it and just fill the space that would be there with that. Then I've got this bit here. Now, all of that isn't actually any use at all. It doesn't matter in a screenshot that you see the name or not. So one option is, if you want a gap, you could delete that and then highlight that and delete that. In certain circumstances, like this one, for me, that's what I did. So if we now compare that with the original, you do have a gap. But if you didn't want a gap, so let's undo that. If you didn't want a gap, you have a different tool that you can use to totally lose that, which is the cutout tool. These are called quick styles, but to me, they're not really quick styles. They're different tools. So if I choose the first one, the horizontal one, you get a blue line as you're moving. As I click and drag down, what it will do is remove that whole area from left to right and close the gap. Now, for what I wanted, that was too much because I wanted some breathing space in it. But that is what you can do with that tool. So back to the selection tool, what I actually did was draw around that, make sure I got all of it, and press delete on it. Right, what else did I do here? I probably would have got rid of this one. Can't remember if I did lose the times or not, but never mind. And that's probably about the best that you would do with that. But now you've got a lovely breathing space at the top and you haven't got anything at the bottom. This is where the new tool comes into play. Now, it's not a new tool in terms of it's something that's on the toolbar at the top. It's an option in the cutout. So in this cutout here, in addition to what you've just seen me do, you also have a vertical one, which works in much the same way. Now, obviously, it won't work well on this one. It will do it, but who would want to do that? But if you need to do what I did horizontally and you need to do it vertically, that tool is there. The other options that you've got in here, or that you have had traditionally, are these 6. So those 6 there. And these give you a kind of rough cutout edge. So they are great when you are indicating that you have removed something. So in this regard, I wouldn't want to indicate that I'd lost something. But if you do, you can go into here and say, I want to take that bit out. And what happens is it gets an edge on it. So a torn edge. You can put something behind that, or you can export it with a transparency, and then you will see this bit overlaying wherever you are putting it. So these have been available years. Right, but the new tool helps me with this at the bottom. And the new tools are the quick styles they're calling them, but to me they're tool options, is the add space option. So the two that have been there, the horizontal and the vertical, are to remove content. These two are to add space. I won't say add content because it wouldn't know what to add, but it can add space. So if I click on that one, where we've got Peter there, if I just click a bit, right, you can see it's starting to add space. It is transparent, not going to worry about that at the moment, and then I can grab it a bit more, and every time I add a bit more, it gives me more space. It's transparent, exactly the same as these ones with the rough edges, but it's added some space. So that evens it up a bit. That looks better as a screen capture for me to put in a presentation. But obviously, I've got an issue with it, and that is that I've got a gap. I've got transparency behind it. But I also have a fill tool. So in the fill tool, if I want to fill it, first decision is, do you want to fill it with the orange, the kind of, well, not orange, off-white at the top, very, very pale yellow, or the white at the bottom? That would be the first thing. If you wanted to split it, you'd need to make a selection first. But let's say I want that to be the white. Go to the eyedropper and choose your colour, just in case it's not quite white. That loads it into this style here that at the moment is not actually saved. And you can then hover over it and click, and it will fill in the gap for you. Now, it's subtle, I will admit that. But that, just taking away certain things, makes it far clearer in a presentation. And you could go as far as you like. You could take away the likes on these things and anything else like that as well. But that is the new tool that it has actually added. Now, I use the cutout tool every single week. Every single week. So what I use it for is the football results. So let's do the... who did we play last weekend? I've lost the plot. Who do we beat? Fulham. That's right. Right. So I'm typing in MUFC versus Fulham. And I will bring this on so you can see it and show you what I do and that I use that tool for it. So I do a search and I get the result. You click on the black link at the top and there is the result. Now, it's going to be slightly off because of the size of the screen. But normally, on a full iMac, I take it full screen. And then I do that and take it half screen. And that means that that is 1280 across there. And I know that. And then I take the screenshot. So it's 1280. I'm going to take it onto the other screen and take it full screen and go half screen and take the capture. If you're wondering where that went, it disappeared because it disappears when you take a capture. And there is that. So then I start work on it. So first of all, I make a copy of it. And this is why I don't use another tool for this, because I need the tools that are in here for it. First thing I do is crop it down from the top because we don't need that. All we need is a little bit of the brown top on it. So I crop that. Next thing to look at is I get rid of the date because sometimes it says yesterday or 2 days ago. And I'm not interested in that. So highlight that and delete it. And then I use the tool that we've just been talking about, this cutout tool. And I don't want in the middle here all these highlights and stuff because there's no way that we can play the video, is there? So highlight that and the headings and delete that. That leaves me with that. Now, to work on the slide, it has to be 16:9 ratio. So I go back to my crop tool. And you can see it's already 1280, but it's by 1092. So what I do in there is grab the bottom and pull up, just keep going until I see 720. And you can see we've got a problem. At 720, you've cropped some stuff off at the bottom. So that isn't going to work. Right, so then I go back into it and I use the same tool again, so this cutout tool, and see where I can save some space. So I could literally go in here and remove a couple of pixels, in there and remove a couple of pixels. What I actually do is between the stats, I make a decision how many I think I'm going to need. So if I say 5, I take 5 out between each one, and that way it doesn't look odd. And it doesn't take that long either. The biggest thing here is whether, if you're taking 4 out or 3 out, just make sure that it is actually the same. So I make my decision with this one, it's going to be 5, take 5 out, and then go back to my crop tool and pull it up until it says 720, not 22, 20, and crop it. And that way I have a perfect screenshot. So they are edited, but they certainly don't look like they're edited. People have said to me, why do you bother with Snagit? Well, you can use Affinity Photo, you can use Photoshop. Why do you bother? Because the tools in here are dedicated to taking screenshots and editing them. Yes, I have tools in all of the other apps that could do the same thing, but I don't have that cutout tool. I would have to adopt different practices, probably drawing round them, putting them on a layer of their own and then lining them up and moving them. It's faster in here. These tools are not photo editing tools, they are screenshot editing tools. So I've been using that tool ages, years and years, and what they have just added in is the ability to add space rather than actually take it away. So who thinks they'd use that? Who's already using it? Let me know in the chat. We got any questions about it, Mike?
We haven't.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
Okay, then. Oh, Graham's talking about a box set of the A-Team. Used to love the A-Team. Did you know the one I liked? You should know this straight away. All the other women liked Face. Me? Howling Mad Murdoch. Loved it. Absolutely fabulous characters. Okay, now I did mention...
Kim says she'll use it. Great demo.
Excellent. Good. Right. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate that last one because I did mention, didn't I, taking it back. So I always duplicate first in case it all goes wrong. But once you've got an image and you made changes to it, you do have this revert to original. I've found occasions it doesn't work, but let's have a look. It worked on that one. So probably I've done something myself, but you do have this revert to original option. Now your toolbar will not look like my toolbar. It won't, because as I say, I put all the tools on there. I feel if I don't, I'll forget that there's a better tool. You've got like the one tool or the simplify tool or something, and I'll be using a different tool. So even when they add a new tool, go straight on there. Obviously, it looks very busy at the moment, but my screen is quite small. Normally, I'm using this full screen iMac, so I've got lots of space. To the point, I have even added on here the fact that I can save it out. So I added that one. And there's also the option to share, which uploads it to Cloud App as well. Okay, so that was Snagit. So let's get rid of that and go back into here. Oh, who's been playing around with the Affinity 2.1 beta apps? Let me know. So you are all able to get in on the Affinity beta program. You just need to go to that URL. There is QR code there for you as well. And the only caveat on it is anyone can join the beta program, but you will only get access to the beta versions of apps that you already own. So if you only own Designer, you will only have access to the Designer beta. But other than that, anyone can test them. So they're available for Windows and Mac and iOS. And the idea is that should you find any problems with it, you will give them feedback. That's the idea. So I've got them all installed on here. They were updated yesterday. Although the feature I'm going to focus on today, it is in all of the apps and it was there in the previous beta. So let's go and have a look at that. I'll look at it in Designer, but it's I've opened the wrong Designer now. I'll look at it in Designer, but it's the same in Publisher and it's the same in Photo. And eventually this will open and then I'll close it and then I'll open the right one. Oh, good grief. It's thinking about it. I'll tell you what, while you think about it, let's open... Oh, now you've thought about it. Right, get rid of it. Right, so it's Designer, but it's the Designer Beta. Right. So this is a feature that's been there a long, long time. What they've done is add something to make it workable, because as it was not workable. It's the number one thing I've seen people complain about. It's up there with no EPUB output from Publisher and the footnotes. So I have got here, it's opened on the wrong screen. There we go. Right, any of these will do. Doesn't matter for what I'm going to demonstrate. So I'll get the web ones. Where's the web ones? I probably don't have the right web one, do you? The one I'm used to, but never mind. That's definitely not right. Let's turn it the other way. Right. You don't want it portrait. There we go. That'll do. Right. So imagine that you're designing something for a customer and they're going to have a great big 20% sale. So I would start designing that. So I'm not particularly bothered about the text on this or whatever, but we will put some text in there. The great 20% off sale. And we will just make that bigger. Again, I'm not concerned what this actually looks like in terms of fabulous design. We're going to focus on one particular thing. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to put text in there and all kinds of stuff. And this is my voucher. And then I'm going to want to put a border on it. So up here you have the stroke panel. First of all, you've got your solid line. So if I turn that on, you can barely see it, but it is actually there. There's my solid line. What a lot of people don't realise is the tweakability you have in here. There's a good word, tweakability. In terms of, you can change the cap ends. Now, is it going to make much difference in here? Well, initially it's set to round caps. So if I change it here, no, it's not going to make that much difference at all because it doesn't have any endpoints. It's a solid thing. It's closed. It's a closed path. But there are some things that do have an impact here. So as I zoom in here, the blue line is representing the edge of the item itself. And you can see that you've got a rounded corner. And that is coming from the join option. So this is making it rounded. You can have it mitered, which is cut off, or you can have it fully square. But this is the default. But if you constantly find yourself using something else, then it's a great thing to make a style of. The other thing is, by keeping your eye on this blue line that's representing the edge of your item, which you can see clearly if you turn the stroke off. When you turn the stroke on, the stroke straddles the actual edge of the item. That is controlled by the align option. And there are times when you may want it inside the shape or outside the shape, depending on the shape. So the default here is to straddle it, align to the centre, but you also have options to align the stroke to the inside, and you can now see that the white dot that is representing the edge of the item is on the outside of it. And the third option takes it the other way, so the white dot and the blue line are representing the inside. You might want to use that one if you've got a photograph and you've got something at the very, very edge that you don't want obscured. Right, that's the basics of it. For what I want, it makes sense to align it to the centre, I think, and it does look better if it's got, well, it says a mitered joint, doesn't it? Oh, bevel joint and a mitre. I thought that one was the mitre. Never mind. Right, so I think it does look better with that, but I'm going to take it back to the default so we can actually see what it looks like. So I'm going to turn on here this option, which is a dashed line style. And I'm going to just make it the default. So this is what would happen in the standard version of Designer, the non-beta one. You would get something like this, which looks like sausages running around it. Oh, the dog's getting giddy, Peter. So in here, I don't think that looks great at all. But now we can see that the cap comes into play. When I change these options, because it's shaped, you can see you get something entirely different. The other thing that you will probably want to do is have some gap around it. So what we're aiming for here is a sale voucher stroke coupon. And if you think about how they look in magazines, there does tend to be a gap. And that's what these options are available for at the bottom. So in the first one, you are choosing the length of the line. So if we make that 5, you can see each sausage is now much longer. The next one, which is set to 1, is the gap. So if we make that 3, you get a bigger gap as well. So that is what controls the length of the stroke and each individual gap. With that applied, whether we have it squared off or not, and we have it straight or not, doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it on the defaults just so we can see it. But what we have here is a problem. And that is when I apply this to a shape, I don't expect the corners to look like that. I want it even, and it's not even, and I will never know why they did it like that. Nobody has ever come to me and said, oh, it's perfect, isn't it? Everyone has come to me and said, there's an option somewhere, isn't there, to even this up? No, there hasn't been until now, which was why I turned this off, because this is new. So over here in the stroke panel, we have this to now level it up. So making sure I've got this selected. I'm trying to get to see the post-it note, but it's not showing me the post-it note, is it? It wouldn't be. It wasn't actually in the previous beta, and it was in this one, but never mind. This option here will set that to be equal. So if I just turn that on, how much better does that look? Now you have each corner equal, and you've not got any silly gaps, odd-looking joins, or anything else either. That, to me, should have been the default from day one. It looks like it is the default now, because it was enabled when I went into it. So with that enabled, you can then start making this look like you would like it to look. So in this one, I wanted it square at the edges, and I wanted to square off these. Probably wouldn't want the gap to be 3. Probably 2 is well enough for that. And in there, probably 3 or 4. Let's start with 3. How does that look? Not bad. Let's see if 4's any better. 4 looks about right to me. So it looks like a cutout line. That's the idea. That's what I'm aiming for. I just think that is such a tiny update, but it's going to make a massive difference. So who's tried it? Oh, Pandemonium's liking that. Carol's got version 2, but not the beta.
Carol's got a question.
Okay, what's Carol's question?
The question is there a way to take a screenshot of the histogram in photo? When I start Snagit, the histo disappears.
Yes. It's in photo. Right, let's open photo. Basically, you've got an issue with that because it's modal. Oh, the beta. Let's have a look. Right, so let's open it up and show you how to do that. Can you just tell me in the chat, is there a particular way you want to open it? You want to take a screenshot? Are you trying to use Snagit, or doesn't it matter how you take it as long as you can take it? Let me know that. Come on. Up we come. That'll do. And histogram. So is this docked like mine is, or do you have it floating, or what? How are you getting that up there? Let me know. It doesn't matter if it's a beta or not, if it's a window. Is it something where you've got it... I'm trying to think.
She said it doesn't matter how.
Oh, right, okay. I'm trying to think of something that we could do here, like that one.
She just needs a screenshot.
Well, the histogram's here, so you've got that there. Is that the issue? And then you're changing to Snagit, and it disappears. But then it comes back. So you could draw around it. Where's the mouse gone? Oh, it's got really upset now. No, it's not doing anything at all. Please don't crash.
Oh, you've broken it.
I've broken it. Oh, no, there it goes. I don't know if that was there or not then. Crying out loud. Right, let's try it again. Seemed to take an age to sort itself out to know if it was there or not. Right, if I do that, I can draw around it, but no, I see your problem. What I do in circumstances like that is use an app called ScreenFloat. Can you put the link in for that? It's the one from the App Store. Yeah. So ScreenFloat, I have working. It's running all the time. And what it enables me to do is take screenshots of stuff that if I were writing about the histogram, so imagine that I've got that on the screen and I've got some stuff set into it, and I now want to switch to Ulysses to write about it, it disappears. And I need to reference it. So this happens for me a lot, that you've got dialog boxes that you want to talk about, but they do not stay on the screen while you're in Ulysses doing the writing, or you're in Obsidian doing the writing. So I have an app called ScreenFloat. You can see it's turned the cursor into taking a screenshot, but it has not hidden the histogram window, which Snagit did. I then press the space bar, and you can see it will either take a window or the whole thing, but the histogram window is now clickable. Not all screen cap utilities are equal. I was trying one the other day, and it wouldn't take a screen cap of something, and I thought, oh, for crying out loud. But this one does. So what I do with that is I just click it, and this is the screenshot. It hovers the screenshot above everything else. If you wanted to play with somebody's mind, all you would need to do is close the histogram and move away. They will not notice the fact that the screenshot has rounded corners and the histogram does not. And they'll be trying to click it and it doesn't click because it's a screen cap. So that's what ScreenFloat does. What I would then do, so let's put that back in there. Where was that? Never mind, I'll reset it later. Right, so that's given me the histogram option here. But let's say that I wanted to do something with it. If what I want to do is literally reference it while I'm writing, then I just leave it sat there like that, and I can reference it. But if I want to do something with it, so I've finished writing about it, and now I need to take a screenshot that I can actually put in my document, you have this icon at the bottom, which is live. So if I click and drag that, it will actually drag it into whatever app I am working with. And now I have the histogram in there. And despite the fact it was showing with rounded corners, when you put it in your document, it looks exactly the same as it does from the app. So that's another reason that I have ScreenFloat. Let's have a look in here. He is working on ScreenFloat 2 right now. And I'm so excited. Can't wait. I can't wait. Right. ScreenFloat. Tell me you're in there. I know you're in there. You are. There we go. I do believe this is either $7.99 or $8.99. But it is. It's amazing. No other screen app that I have ever used, apart from, what was that other one? Snappy App. Snappy App used to do the same, but Snappy App broke. Snappy App was also the one that I ended up with gigs worth and gigs worth of orphaned files. So I started using this one when it broke on, I think it was Biggles. But as I say, he is working on version 2 and I cannot wait. Version 2 will be a free update, as it says here. So I really recommend that app. I'm not a believer in there's one app and you know, I'm looking for the best screen capture app. The best is going to change depending on the circumstances. So I find myself using ScreenFloat a lot because of those dialogues that disappear. And then when you finish with it, you get an option. You know, you've taken this screenshot, you've put it in here. Do you want to keep it? Most of the time, I probably don't. So I've got an option here that I can right click and delete the shot. If I hide the shot, it will put it in the library and I will be able to go back to it as and when. So in this circumstance, I want to delete the shot. That gets rid of it. The shot's in here and I'm good to go. Does that answer your question?
She says, can you save the image?
The image is automatically saved, yes. So I'll tell you what, let me take another screenshot here with it. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking a screenshot of Mike to the loopback pipe. There he is. So that's a floating window. So at that point, if I want to save it to the library, it will automatically be saved if I close it, and then I can open up the library. But what else you can do is with this proxy icon, if you drag and drop that anywhere you like, it makes a copy of it. So that is now it moved it because I've got automation going on, that hoisted by my own petard there. Right, I'll put it in a folder, otherwise it'll disappear because it's named screenshot, and I have automation running that puts my screenshots in a specific folder. So if I put it in there, you can see the word screenshots there, but it won't move it from there. And there is the screenshot. So yes, you can save it. It automatically saves it to the library unless you delete it. Or you can save it wherever you like with a proxy icon. It's a fabulous, fabulous app. I mean, it's a bit niche maybe, but I can see use cases, even if you're not doing what I do, where I need to refer to modal dialogues all day, every day. So do we have any further questions on that, or are we done on that?
No, that's it. It says ScreenFloat, already owned it and forgotten about it. It's a great reminder.
That's the thing, sometimes I'm sitting there and thinking, I'm looking for a screenshot. And then you think, oh, good grief. And you use a different app depending. Always good to have that one available. Right. Okay. Do we have any further questions, or is that it?
That is it, I think.
Right.
Oh, no. There's one from Patience.
Right.
Can you make the cutout lines follow circles or such? I could see this being extremely useful for creating cut lines for my students.
So can you have them what?
Can you make the cutout lines follow circles or such?
Yeah, because all it is a stroke. So if we bring on here a circle, you can see because it was enabled, it's already there. So it will go round anything. And if this was Publisher, these are shapes in Designer, but in Publisher, you have placeholders for images, and you can put a stroke on that. You can put a stroke on anything. You can put a stroke on text if you want. So let's get this great 20% thing there. Let's put 20% here. Let's do that. Right, let's make it massive. Like that. 20% off. Right, like that. It's probably going to look absolutely horrific, but we could do it if we wanted. So let's take that up there. See it around the edges? Now looks like it's got teeth. I guess that would look better if we went in here and did something utterly ridiculous with the colours. So if we change that, you can see that you do then have a border on it. So it's just a stroke. The change that they've given you is that the stroke looks reasonable, which it didn't used to. So if we look at this number 2 here, you can see that the corners actually don't look bad. Each one's got a corner on it. If we went back into the stroke and turned off this new feature, all of a sudden that's not working. We've got weirdness going on. We've got this that looks distorted, and that's hanging off the end. And when we go down here again, this is just, is it Pac-Man? What's going on? That's why I could never understand why that was the default. It makes no sense. Look how neat that is. We've still got a problem there. We could fix that, but it's much, much better than it was. Much better. So yes, you could use cut lines on that if that's what you wanted to do. Absolutely, you could. One thing I decided to do with it, that would probably look better, much better look like that. One thing I did with it was I got myself, let's change that to black, although it doesn't actually matter, so let's leave it as it is. I went there and I put in scissors. Which ones did I use? I do believe it was that one. So I put some scissors in there. Obviously, we don't want it to look like that. We don't want a stroke on the scissors. And I put it on the line itself. So if I wanted that there to indicate that it was a cut line, you can see that you've got some kind of problem going on behind because of this. So what I would do is turn that off. I would go and get a square and draw it on. Now, obviously, that's horrific as well, but we don't need the border on it. So let's go see. Right, it's pushed right up to the line, so it's covering that bit. If I duplicate that then, I held down the Option key and dragged, and pull that back so it's there. But this time, change the colour. So go back in and make that white like the outside is. Now you've covered that up. So this bit and that bit, those two shapes, which I'll group and call mask. They're not an official mask, but they're just sitting over the top of the dash behind it, which means when I turn on the scissors and bring the scissors to the front, there you go. So if you wanted it to be a coupon with a pair of scissors, I mean, and I'm not sure who in this day and age cuts coupons out, but do people still do that? Everything I do is digital. I was actually thinking the other day, you know, I don't know where my purse is. I haven't used it in such a long time. It's
probably next door.
It's probably got money in it that's out of date.
Mm.
But I don't have physical coupons myself, but I know that even if it's a digital coupon, it makes sense to have it looking right, doesn't it? So there you go. So does that answer that question?
There's another question.
Okay.
From Patience. Could you draw freehand and add the stroke to that?
Yes. The stroke goes on anything. So let's get this one. This is getting bad, isn't it? So what I'll do is I'll add an artboard and then I'll add another one, which means I can come over here and squiggle. Right, so in here we got the pen tool and the squiggly tool. So there's a squiggle. Now that's looking solid because I didn't have the stroke enabled. But if I were to enable the stroke, there you go. And it works with the pen tool as well. And I know how much you all love the pen tool. There we go. So you can draw your own shapes and you can put it on that. I think that change, I'm not sure how much coding was involved in making that change, but making that change is a game changer as far as I'm concerned for how I would then use it. Because there were dirty hacks, but oh, good grief. As soon as you coughed, you needed to redo it. So I think that is amazing. I am so glad that they've actually done that. It would be nice if that was in version 2, wouldn't it, at the very beginning? Because it would have been something that people would have got excited about because I've seen so many complaints about it. So, is that it? Or is Jammy getting excited now?
Jammy says there's a faint black line. Am I the only one who can see it?
What faint black line?
I don't know.
Where? Where's the faint black line? Yes, it's only you that can see it. You've overdone it at the gym. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay. So that only one feature, but wow. Wow. The thing to get the best out of it, I would say in here, is to understand the rest of the options within the stroke. The number one thing that is off, I think, by default, that annoys me, because then I have to turn it back on, is when I'm doing a MacBites poster. I will just put another one in here. But when I'm doing a MacBites poster, it has to have a title, obviously. So when I go in and put a title in, I will do something like, what was the last one? I mean, the font isn't right with this, but let's just say I wanted Robot Wars. I'm going to want that in some kind of font. Now, the robot one, I put in a robot font, but normally it's some kind of comic font. So I've got things in like this one, these, and Bada Boom, and this one is one that we use a lot, particularly if there's an I in it, because it gets a lowercase I. So once I've got something like that, what I want to do with it is put some kind of border on it, because it will have a background of some description and I will want it to stand out. So I'll go in and I will put a stroke on it. Now, obviously that's a black stroke, but I can go in and I can change that. Normally I'm going for something like a yellow. And then what I'll want to do is see what that looks like reversed. And it actually looks much better like that. Right, at that point, I'm probably thinking to myself, needs to be a bit bigger, but not crazy big. So maybe like that. And I'll forget. At that point, I'll forget. And then I'll take this and I will scoot it down and all of a sudden it's all distorted and bad words are said. What I actually need to do, and that probably looks better at a 10, is put a tick in the scale with object box. It's such a simple thing, and now it scales perfectly, but I always forget. I'd love for that to be the default. But basically, to get the most out of that, understand what's going on in the stroke box, the stroke panel, and you will get the best out of it. Just for completeness, let's have a look what that would look like if it was dotted. So initially at this stage, it's 1 and 1. But if we made that like 3 and we made that one 5. Ooh, 5's far too big. Okay. That actually doesn't look as good as all the others. I would suspect it's because that font probably wasn't made to accommodate that. You may have better luck with like a monotype font or something, but you can still put a border on it if you want to. I wonder if that's got anything to do with that, and would it look any better? Bigger or smaller? No, it's still tailing. It's scaling with it, but not looking the best. Not that I ever do that. I go for clarity with the posters. But there you have it. So, do we have anything more on that last call?
No.
Were you pondering that then? Okay, I will save that. Come on. You know you can do it. There we go. I saved it as untitled. That's as bad as DimX as variable, isn't it, Mike? Never mind. Ooh, who did watch the Canva thing? Canva Create. Who watched it? You had to book, I think. But in essence, Canva's been going 10 years. I remember when it very first came out, and I remember thinking to myself, why? Why would I want to design in a browser? They did get some advocacy very early on, people that were very vocal supporting them, and I was still, well, I've got Photoshop, why would I be doing that? But 10 years on, it's speed. Even I have a pro account. It's speed, need to do it now. It can even save you time just from the fact of like, what size is a Facebook post today? What size is a LinkedIn post? Because they change every 5 minutes. Let them do the work. So I'm a convert to Canva. There was 6 months ago, they did some updates and they did this Canva Create. And they've had another Canva Create. So if you're into like Adobe and you know about Adobe Max, it's like that. It's like an Apple event. As I say, I did have to book, I remember that. So who watched it? Is anybody saying in the chat that they watched it, Mike?
Nobody's saying that they watched it.
Oh, just me then. There was a million.
I would have watched it, but I had a webinar, didn't I?
You did. There was supposed to be 1.5 million people watching, and the room was packed, absolutely packed. In fact, I'm not sure if it was a room or if it was an open air thing. But they demonstrated at great length all the features that they've added. And basically every one of them starts with the word magic, which reminded me of the lady at work who calls you, all together now,
Magic Mummy.
And what does she call me?
Mrs. Magic. Or
that.
Mrs. M.
Mrs. M. I love that. Right, so they announced 10 huge features, and then another 3, and then finally another 1. I don't know why they did it like that either, but that's what they did. So there's no way I can get to all of them in one session, so we'll probably finish this off next week, but let's go see some of them. Who's tried any of these? Right, why are you sat there when you shouldn't be? Right, I need a browser, obviously, because I need to get into Canva. So, let me get into Canva and get the browser on the screen. Right. So they've been bigging up this. So what we're looking at here is I have a pro account, but I also have a team account. So I'm in charge of the team account, if you look at the left-hand side, for Giles Thomas, and there's the 2 of us in there. Wasn't that because we got a huge discount?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point having 2 accounts separately that you're paying for separately, when if you're paying for one, yeah, it's £99 a year, isn't it? And I pay it, and Mike piggybacks on mine, so that's fine. So we've got 2 there for that's included. I did read that that if you have in the past, like we are, you've been using it, and you've got 5 members on your team, they are all included. You don't pay any extra for those 5. But one of the huge things that they were pushing at this event, and like I say, I wouldn't bother watching the whole thing if I were you. Watch the 11-minute summary. It was quite wordy, and it was, when like Samsung do an event where they are, what's the word? Ridiculous is a word that comes to mind, but they kind of run like scenarios and talk to each other and do 2-handers, and no, We don't need all of that. I hanker for the days of Steve Jobs. I said to Mike, the thing with Steve Jobs was his biggest trick was to just shut up. So when he was introducing the iPhone and he was talking about it, it's a music player, it's an internet communicator, it's a phone. And people are just going, yeah. And he just shut up. And then he said it again, and then shut up. Then he said it a third time, and he said, are you getting this yet? And that's the anticipation that was building. And this was more like a comedy show with sketches, which I didn't appreciate. But what they announced was this thing here where it says discover the magic from Canva Create. And there's all these little parcels here, little presents. And that was how they announced it. They had these icons on the screen. And I've deliberately not clicked because I'm assuming once I've clicked, it's gone, and I wanted to show you. So you would click on each of these and it would open it and then tell you what that one was. So actually, the biggest thing that they have announced is this brand hub, which is this bit here. Now, it's pro only. That's why it's got a crown next to it. But you can create branding kits inside Canva, which, if you think about it, even as a solopreneur, is important because the time it takes you to create stuff like that will put you off doing it. So it's important anyway. But if you're working with clients or you're working as a team, to have access to the same assets in the same place is important. I'm sure when I started, you could have 3 brand kits. At some point, that went up to 100. And this week, they've announced it's gone up to 300, which means, as well as having brand kits for your brands, you can actually create brand kits like on the fly for a particular project if you want to. So the brand kits are important in 2 ways. One, for you using it as a user, but also there's a push from Canva to get into large businesses. And I don't mean like where you've got 10 or 20 employees. I'm talking like government departments and massive, massive companies. So they are really pushing the brand kits. So when I started, I had 3. I had the MacBites brand kit, mine, and Mike's Excel trainer. So this week, as I'm playing around with it, I initially, I'm sure you could only have 3. So I put the Scrivener colours, the colour palette, in MacBites because I couldn't have a 4th one. But as you can see, now I can have a lot more. The only thing I will say about this is I started off with the MacBites kit. I added mine, I added Mike's. Then I added Scrivener, Affinity, Publisher, Designer and Photo. Can't find a way to sort these or move them. If I wanted, if I'd put in here a project brand kit and I wanted it at the top because I was working on the project, there doesn't seem to be a way to move them. I would have assumed I'm clicking and trying to drag and I can't do anything. And in there I've got duplicate, or I can add it to a folder. So one thing that, again, that's new is that you can now add folders. So if we had different brand kits for, maybe we have a MacBites After Hours brand kit and a MacBites brand kit and a Marooned at MacBites Headquarters brand kit, you could create a folder for them and put them all in there. You could do the same with these Affinity ones if you wanted to. So what this looks like, and I haven't taken this to the nth degree, and I also, when I did it, I needed the white logo first, so I uploaded the white logo. Then I uploaded the black one, and then I uploaded the show art. I'm looking at it thinking I'd much rather the brand kit was represented by either this one or just the word MacBites in black so I could read it. Because, if you go back to that, you can see it, but it's not as clear as this one. And again, I don't see a way that I can reorder that, change it around. But what you have in your brand kit, if you are like I am in a team, it will show you where it's shared. And you can add extra places to share it. Then you have your logos that you've added. You can add new logos if you want. So some of the ones that are missing there for me are things like the live and the marooned one, not there. So I could add those, but remember these are logos at the top. You do have other things like graphics, photos and icons. So don't just shove everything in logos, only put the logos in logos. Then you've got some colours. So primarily here I've got the MacBites palette and I have the colours that we use. Again, very tiny thing, but I wish they would give you 2 lines to describe the colour. This one is dark orange and this one is called midnight blue. If I put that in, I don't know what the code is. And if I put the code, I don't know what the name is. So I'd love to have both on 2 lines. It will let me put more text in, but then it's truncated. So I'm just going to have to remember that I've done everything and I've done it right. I then added this one called Sip of Orange, which was the black and the blue are very close to each other if you want to apply a colour palette to something and have it a little bit lighter. So I created this Sip of Orange. I've added in my fonts because the fonts that I use here are not actually available on Canva, or they weren't back then. So these fonts, this is Myriad Pro. So I uploaded it. And then I decided what would be a title and a subtitle and a heading and all the rest of it. I haven't actually uploaded any photos, but if I wanted to include photos as part of maybe a promotion of behind the scenes or something, so we've got like, here's the microphone and here's the desk and that kind of stuff, then I could upload those there. Same with graphics, if I want to upload graphics, and icons. So the ones that I've got at the top as logos are actually bigger. The other ones that I've got, I don't have that much in there at all. So my colours are very simple here. This is 100% red, 100% white, 100% black, and this grey colour. I've no idea why I picked that grey colour, but I did. So I put my logo types in there. Again, I put my fonts in, but I haven't added anything else to it. The Scrivener one, let's see what we've got in mics. I think I've only got 3 colours for mics in here and I haven't even got the logos. So lots of work to be done this week. But the Scrivener one, I created the Scrivener one and I took the colours from the MacBites one. So the only thing that's in the Scrivener one is the Scrivener colours, like this. So I can actually show you what that looked like. If I go in here and you say copy to another brand kit, if I want to copy this back into the MacBites one, that's where it came from. So going back to the brand hub and going in here now, I now have 3 colour palettes. And all I did was just what you saw me do, only I transferred it out to Scrivener. So this is particularly, oh, we've got a reorder there. Maybe I can find a reorder for other things. So I can delete that one from there because I've got it in the Scrivener one. Let me have a look here. Can I reorder? No, I can't, you see. I can reorder the colour palettes. I can't reorder the logos. Not good enough. But the reason that you would put these in as logos is the assets that you have, the templates from Canva, have a placeholder for logos and you can put your logo in it. So if you can imagine that I've put my logo in and we only had this MacBites one. And then later on I wanted to change it or I update the cover art. That wasn't our original cover art. Who has been listening to MacBites long enough can describe what the cover art used to look like? Could you do that? He's struggling. He's struggling. Who's been listening long enough that they know what the change was? So one of the huge new features, if you can imagine you've been doing this for 5 years, you've got all your assets up there and then you change the logo and you can't use anything with the old logo on. That's a massive job. But in here, under the 3 dots, you now have replace across designs. It says it's a beta, but it is a new feature. So if you've deployed that logo, you can change it across all your designs, which again is a huge update, particularly for Teams. So those are the brand kits that you have. That is now called the Brand Hub. I actually have a couple of things in there. I think I've got a couple for Scrivener. So I don't know whether I'd put it in logos or icons. That's a point. It is probably an icon, but I'm not sure of the implications of making something an icon, but never mind, we'll do it anyway. So I'm going to upload one. And it's looking at downloads, and I think I put it in here. I've got all kinds of rubbish in here, but there is the Scrivener icon, so I will upload it from there. And it loads in the icon. And you build your brand kit up like that. So although this says Scrivener, I would also upload to here the scalpel icon. Now that one's going to be interesting. There we go, the scalpel. Yeah, I extracted that from the app itself. So I've added 2 icons in there. So now if I want to write something about Scrivener, create some art about Scrivener, I've actually got the icon to do it. If we go back, I think I did upload the Scrivener icon. So these brand kits are separate from your uploads. These are the things that you may repeatedly use. But if we go back to Canva, I used this only the other week. Where's that one? This one here. Scrivener's usually on sale every now and then. And I uploaded the file separately. Whereas if I'd put it in a brand kit, I wouldn't have needed to. So there was one with 50% off. That was for Mac. Then I've got the Windows one. And then I've got some sessions and things like that I'm planning for. So they were in there. But this I actually uploaded separately. And once it's in a brand kit, you don't need to. You can take it from the brand kit. So do we have any questions about brand kits before we create something?
We don't.
Oh, right. Okay, then. So I'm not going to go through these one by one because I've got no idea which is which ones I'm showing you. So let's have a look. What did I put in here? Right. What I will show you, though, in the brand kits is how I would add some of these. So this Affinity Publisher one here, I actually have a range of colours. So for Affinity Publisher, there are 3 colours that I use all the time. So in my colour palette here, I'd be looking to add these 3 colours in particular. So I'll paste that one in. That's the darkest colour. Then there is a lighter colour, so add a new one. And what I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting the hex code from where I've got it, which is in Obsidian. So that's the second colour I have. And then I have one that is marginally different than this orange. These colours themselves are actually from the icon. And put that in. So it's very, very similar to this. It's those 2 colours that I make a gradient from. And that's it. Now this one says colour palette. What I would probably do with that is put Affinity Publisher. And that would be the primary one. And then I can add as many more as I like. So that's the brand stuff. Right, what next was I going to... Oh, I've done this in true Blue Peter style. So Blue Peter's a UK TV show where they always had one they'd done earlier, just in case it didn't work. And seeing some demonstrations of AI stuff, I've seen it fail spectacularly. So I thought I'd have one ready, but it's only in case it doesn't work live. So one of the things that you can create in here is presentations. So I'm looking for a 16:9 presentation. You can see you've got a lot of templates available, but I am looking for a 16:9 presentation. So if I go in there, it's going to create a blank presentation for me eventually. You're still thinking about it? Oh, you know you want to do it. Come on. I'm clicking and you're not creating. That's not the deal. There we go. Right, thinking about it. Okay. So I could have started with a template. I can still do that from in here. I've got all of these things in here. So, and they're in 2 kinds of ways. There's the look and feel of it, but there's also the content. So if you've been, you want to pitch for something, you've got pitch a brand, pitch deck. If you've been asked to do a team meeting agenda, you could do that as well, and it would give you some content. But the new thing in here is Magic Design at the top, which is describe the presentation you want, and we'll write and design it for you. Now notice it says a draft, and it caveats this all the way through. And I came across a funny yesterday when I was trying it. So let's see if it complains today. So you click Magic Design and it asks you, it's AI, it asks you to use 5 or more words to describe your presentation topic. You can write more than that, but it doesn't take half as many words as Notion would or ChatGPT. So what I want here is a history, you know what's coming, don't you, Mike, of Manchester United, including all the trophies won from their inception. Let's see how well it does with that. Now you can see it's got 82 characters out of 100. It's smaller than a tweet. So looking at that, I'm thinking, do I need to caveat it in any other way? Right. I'm thinking to lose the word A and put in something like a 15-slide presentation or 15-slide history of Manchester United. So I've only got 11 characters left now. Now I'm going to have to start being careful. But I'll copy that so we know what we asked it to do. The first time I did this, it did really well. The second time I did it, I asked it to add some stuff. Didn't end well. So let's see how well this does. I also asked it last night for 12 and it gave me 10. Oh, here we go. Try making it simpler. Oh, crying out loud. I mean, Notion never does this, so I don't think the AI is quite there yet, but we'll try again. Right, let's put it in. Shall we take away the trophies? Let's just say a 15-slide history of Manchester United. Do you think you could manage that at all? Because it did actually manage it last night. Now you know why I created it. Right, so as for 15, it gave me 10. I think 10 might be the limit. But here we go. I didn't tell it was a football club. I didn't tell it the nickname was the Red Devils. It's obviously found this from somewhere. Some of the images, like the introduction image, is great, but what's with the cakes? Luckily, all of this can be changed. But at this stage, you're doing two things. You're looking at the content. So Manchester United, also known as the Red Devils, is one of the most successful football clubs in the world with a rich and storied history. Yep, that's true. What is interesting in this is it's factually accurate, Mike. Things like founded in 1878 as Newton Heath Locos. It's actually correct. When they won their first league title, when they changed the name, Matt Busby, the Busby Babes, which obviously leads to the Munich air crash. So despite the fact that Kraft made what we would call a pig's breakfast of the history, this one's much better, but then I don't get that because we gave it more information in Kraft. So it's a bit of a black art, this AI business, but it's not doing bad. Why we've got a map of Manchester when the crash was in Munich, I don't know. I've no idea who she is. She's certainly not Matt Busby. Then he goes on to Alex Ferguson and all the trophies and the treble of 1999. And at that point, it stops because it only seems to do 10 slides. But we'll fix that. So the ones at the top are a different style. Content's the same. It will just display it in a different style. And the orange is coming from my colours. So my primary brand was MacBites, and that's where it's coming from. It is laying it out differently, though. It's not just the colours that's changing. I mean, a dilapidated house. What? There are no words. Right, this is not going to do this on its own. It's going to need some severe help from you. So pick the one that's nearest to what you want. That one is not near at all to what I want. Let's have a look. Not bad, but to be honest, the first one was probably better. It didn't have a stupid phone on it and stuff like that. Right, let's go with that one then. So at this stage, it hasn't created a presentation. You use the button at the top to create the presentation, and there it is. This is the caveat I was telling you about. The technology is new and improving. Report the design if it doesn't seem right. But when I click that, it really did mean report, as if it was inappropriate rather than incorrect. So I thought that wasn't great either. But we have our presentation. So as I said to you, the problem that I've got with this, apart from the fact it looks ridiculous, you can change all of that. You can change the templates and apply these templates here to what you have over here. So if we search the presentation templates, and I think we might have to put soccer, despite the fact it's football, just saying. That one's not bad there. That one's not bad. So I could come through here and then start fiddling with it. But the most important thing, as far as I was concerned, was when I got to the end of the data, it just stopped. And I thought, well, what about what they won in the 2000s? Because they were still winning at that point. But luckily, despite the fact it only seems to do 10, so let's get rid of that, we have the magic button, the creative assistance here. So I can click that and I can ask it to add some stuff. So I don't particularly want a new presentation. I can't now remember which one I did pick. Which one of these did I pick? Did I pick to write it? Right, add slides. Don't want to say trophies. I didn't seem to understand trophies. Let's try Manchester United history of the 2000s. So you do have to think carefully about what you do here. But technically speaking, it should give me some slides. Right, it's actually put... Oh, no, I don't have access to the files or documents. What on earth? You did it yesterday, you swine. I knew this had happened. Let me try once more by using this magic design thing and ask it to do the same. And see how it gets on. I don't want a new presentation. I want it to add it to this one. So let's see how that goes. Right. Come on. Slowing down. Right, let's have a look here. Yep, it's got the players in there. It's got what titles were won, European stuff, all of that. Doesn't look particularly great, but that's something that you're going to need to sort out yourself and then create it. And it has added it to here, so I'm trying to get rid of that. I deleted the wrong bit. Let's get... Oh, come on. Is that selected? Right, let's get rid of it. Okay, so what it's done is add extra slides. So there's the introduction to the 2000s. That's all the detail. I mean, obviously, there are very few images that are right. I have no idea what that's about. But this one is actually the pedestrian bridge over the Irwell, which is close to the ground. So I can see why they put that one on there. Again, it just seems to have randomly picked images, but all of that can be changed. So if we go back to the Munich one, where's the Munich one? That one where it's just picked this map of Manchester. If you were to go to Elements and type in there, Munich, what have we got? I think it used one of these at one point. So I can just drag and drop that on and change it as quickly as that. So if you are completely clueless on what you want to put in your presentation, I think it is a great start. But it's not at the point... Do you remember that video on Copilot, Mike? Which was, it'll do it for you. Yeah, right. This needs a little bit more work, but it's a great start. And I'm happy to report, having checked everything, it is totally factually correct, which does make me wonder how Craft went so badly wrong. Because it was my understanding that this AI is all being trained on the same data. But I did not mention the Munich air crash. And when we look at what we've got there, the date's correct. The number of people who died is correct, both in terms of 23 people and 8 players. They were returning from Belgrade, where they played a European match. So it is factually accurate. And then they went on to win the Cup 10 years later, which is also factually accurate. So whereas with some of these AI apps, you're spending most of your time trying to check the AI is accurate, with this one, it seems backwards to me that it's factually accurate, but the thing that's the worst is the design. Why did it not pick up the fact that United play in red? It's busy telling me they're the Red Devils at the beginning, so why don't you make the presentation red then? There's an idea. But no, it didn't do that, but it is factually accurate. So, have we got comments or questions?
Patience has just posted and says, could Canva be more concerned with facts since they are wanting integration into larger corporations?
Could well be. Could well be, but I don't understand in that case why Craft wouldn't be. It just doesn't make sense. I think Canva are going to be very concerned about accuracy, not particularly for corporations, but for education. They have provided, I think it was 3 million free accounts for education and non-profits. So for education, if you've got children using this, it needs to be factually accurate, hence that option to report something. Where I thought it meant report it as being inaccurate, it actually meant inappropriate. So I think that could be the driver behind it. This getting into corporates is very new, and that's why it's that need that has driven them with this to put the branding kits in there, the branding hub. But it's not bad, is it? It's a good start. If you are clueless, it is a good start. Okay, I'm going to move back to the home from there. So that is another one was Magic Design. So what we've seen is Magic Design inside the presentations. But Magic Design applies all over the place. And honestly, trying to work out how half of this works, because they stood there for an hour and 40 minutes and didn't actually say, press this, do that. It's just like, oh, look what we've done. It's like, that's great. How do I access that? They don't tell you. So one of them, we had fun this morning as soon as I got out of bed with this. I was still awake and I was saying, this isn't working. But we managed to fix it. So if you go into the template options, you will see visualize your design ideas with Magic Design. So if you imagine that you've got, their example is a pair of headphones, but if you've got a new podcast to promote or you've got a product to promote, you may want to try the Magic Design on it. So you click Try Magic Design and it goes in and it's talking about invitation templates. That's where it's starting from because it has invitation up here. I'm presuming you could change that if you wanted. So I think I put podcast in there and that filtered it down to podcast stuff in here. So these don't look bad, do they? You can either start with one of these templates or you can create a new blank podcast promotion item. But you also have this Try Magic Design at the top. Now, it says Insert Media at this end. But normally when you see this box, it means you can drag and drop. Don't drag and drop. Drag and drop uploads it to your library and does not do what it's supposed to do in here. So I'm going to say Insert Media, and I can either choose a file by dragging and dropping it at this stage, or I can find one in the library, and these are the ones I've got in the library. So I uploaded an image of a microphone. And what it's doing as soon as I pick that image is using that as the artwork and picking some templates that may be workable for me. I mean, I think this one is absolutely fine. That one, the image would need moving down a bit. That's got it cut off a bit. That's not bad, but I don't need to change the word podcast. But you get all of these options, which is a good starting point. If you are just like, go on, thrill me. Pick me something because I'm tired, then I think it really is a good start. So if we choose this one, this Deep Talk podcast here, it tells you a bit about it, what it's compatible with, etc. So I'm going to say, yep, let's customize that template. And the biggest thing that I could do to make that look as though it belonged to MacBites, because at the moment it looks incredibly washed out, is to change the colours of it. Now, I can go in here and I can choose all of these if I want to apply it. But I think it'd be nice to change some of the colours. So in my elements in here, is it in my elements? Or are my colours somewhere else? Where have you disappeared to? Everything's moved because of this as well. I've got all kinds of stuff going on over here. I'm sure I had colours listed and now they've disappeared. Oh, where have you put them? Maybe it's under design and maybe it's under styles. Here we go. Right, so this is my MacBites brand kit. That's my colours. And if I apply that now, it looks much more MacBites, doesn't it? But I can also alternate between them. I like this. So that's more after hours-ish. I can also use all of the other palettes in here. So I've got my sip of orange if I want it to be orange. My recently used includes this red one that I used on the United thing. So if I wanted to apply that, and again I can shuffle that, then I can do that. So all you would need to do is upload one image and let it do the rest, which is pretty awesome. Right, I'll show you something that I posted earlier today as well. So I'm going back over here. This was especially for Renee, and would you know it, he's not here. And I don't think Tracy is either, and I did this for both of them. I trust you're watching on replay. Right, what I did was, it's National Introverts Week, and while you might not think it, I am incredibly, very much an introvert. So I created this thing. It was from one of the Canva templates, and I tweeted it out earlier. So it'll come in and there's my colours. So basically it's, one of these bingo cards. So have you ever introvert edition? Happy to report the answer to that was yes, every single one of them. So let me know if you're an introvert. Have I stayed indoors for a day, Mike? Let me rephrase that. Can you remember the last time I went out?
No.
There you go.
Kim's a total introvert, she says.
Introverts of the world unite, Kim. Have I worn headphones in public? Are you kidding me? I've worn them at Mass. Remember when that standing priest arrived and started preaching? Our priest doesn't preach. He started preaching. He was a bit, what was that one in Ireland? Ian Paisley. So, yes, I've worn them at Mass as well. Everything basically. Have I missed a phone call? My phone is on permanent DND. So, yeah, have I hung out with a small circle of friends? No, don't hang out with friends. So I had this, and obviously there's lots of text in it, right? So I thought it would be handy to have this available in other languages. You can do that. So the first one here is English. I created a Dutch version. No, I don't speak much Dutch. And I wanted Renee to be able to have a look at it and see how accurate it was. So maybe you can do that on Catch Up. There we go. Some of them looked absolutely fine. If I look at the bit at the bottom, what's your score? Even I can read that says what's your score. I also created one in Catalan. No, I can't read that is your score. But there we are. So how did I do that? Not speaking any of the languages. Shall we do a French one? Right, I'm going to the English one, which is the first page. Now, what I did find strange was the first time I used this, I had to go into the apps and I had to search for Translate. So I searched for Translate. Really? Okay. It was there 10 minutes ago. I was beside myself. That was what I did. Translate came up. I clicked it. Right. What's going on? Once I'd used it, Translate was moved over to the sidebar. I don't like adaptive interfaces. They never work the way I think they should. But we'll click Translate. That takes us to the Translate, and then we get the option here to choose what. So translate from what. Obviously, I'm going to say automatically detect it. And translate to. So I'm going to choose in here French. We also tend to have a lot of German people watching, so maybe I should do German as well. But I'll choose French, and then I need to apply it to a page. And the page I want to translate is the first page because that's the one that's in English. And then all I need to do is to click Translate. Now, before I do that, I just want to point out at the bottom, I have a premium account. I can use this 500 times a month. So it's telling me it's refreshing in a month, and I've used it twice, and that's quite right. The Dutch one and the Catalan one. If you have a free account, you get 500 goes, but that's it. When you run out, you've run out. But you do have 500 goes to do it. So I'm going to click Translate on that, having a think about it. And it puts it in as page 2, and obviously it's called the same. So, oh dear. I am... Yes, now you see, I know that says what's your score. So I'm hoping that's pretty decent. So what I would need to do at that point is, let's take this down a bit there, so we can see the whole thing. And in here, which is the French one, I need to change the name to French. And rinse and repeat. So I've now got the French one. Let's do a German one. So do German, page 1, Translate. And I'm going to have absolutely no clue here, but I do know that Mike did German. So as long as Ergebnis is score, we're all right. No, Mike can barely remember salt and pepper, can't you?
Don't look at me.
But didn't you do this to A-level?
No.
Oh, it's all right if it's O-level then. Right, so it's saying English again. I need to go in there, change that to German, and I can move them around, put them in whatever order I want, but now I've got one that I can post in other languages.
Wo ist die Fliege?
I've no idea.
Where is the fly?
That's a really useful phrase,
we
isn't
had a
it?
student teacher and she taught us this game. Where is the fly?
Right.
Wo ist die Fliege?
Now you know why I did maths. Just saying. Now, the weird thing with this is you can translate anything and everything. It doesn't matter if it's a presentation or artwork like this, except documents. No, I don't understand the logic of that either. I can only assume it's because if there's a limit on it, like there is with this, I can imagine that they don't want you translating 50-page epics. Maybe that will come down the line, but you can't translate a document yet. Okay, so we got any questions on that one before I move on to the next one?
No.
Right, let's go in here and see if I can find this one, because honestly, finding this stuff is ludicrous. Right, how on earth did I get there? Right, if I go into the apps, maybe it's going to be in there. Here we go. Text to an image. So this is you describing an image. Now, I did this. So I'm going to do the same thing and see what it comes up with. And I was sorely tempted with a panda surfing. I was. But you click on generate image. It explains to you what it's going to do. So you describe it. It will create you an image. You get an option to use in an existing design or use in a new design. So I might as well put this in a new design. So what do I want? It doesn't really matter. Let's do, can we get a 16:9 on something? That'll do. We'll do a presentation to get a 16:9. Right, hopefully it won't just take me in there and dump me, because I need to describe the image, don't I? Right, so what it's opened is text to image. If that doesn't come up, it came up down here for me on the sidebar because I'd used it. If it's not there, try in the apps. They really should have some kind of guide to this interface. Right, but I can include all sorts here. Objects, colours, locations, surroundings, people. So what I put in, I thought, I'll trip it up here. I'll trip it up. A delivery robot, because we're into our little robots here. A delivery robot on a road at sunset. And let's see what it comes up with. Right, so let's press enter. Have a think about it. This does look very much like the Microsoft one. Now, interestingly, it's come up with different stuff to what it came up with last night. So if I want that on there, I can drag and drop it on. There's my robot. If I want this one on, let's drag that one on. I do think as images go, they do look rather nice. They don't look anything like our robots, but that is a nice image. That is a nice... I could have used that for the Robot Wars poster, couldn't I? So let's drag that on there, make that a bit bigger so we can have a look at it. And there we go. Oh, that one's called... Is it Delosey? Looks like Delroy, but it's not. There we go. So who wants to suggest something that won't get me struck off anywhere? Who wants to put something in the chat to suggest? While you think about that, I'll show you another one I did. I was just playing around and I thought it won't be able to do this. So have a think about it. We'll go back into there. But I will show you one that I did last night. The prompt I gave it, you'll know this from the title. If you're a MacBites listener, you will know all about David Hockney. So I thought, a David Hockney tribute is what's needed. So the prompt that I gave it was, an artist stuck in a lift. Didn't do a bad job. Seriously. This one, when I said artist, he's actually got a paintbrush in his hand. There is a lift and there is art on the front of the lift. This one, it's actually, there isn't an artist, but there is art on the inside of an elevator. Unbelievable. This was based on a true story of David Hockney getting stuck in a lift in Amsterdam. So I used that as like my muse, and it didn't do at all bad. So what have we got?
A camera with a long lens beside a tree from Carol.
Okay.
A Sammy dog playing in the snow from Kim.
Right, let's take those two then. So back in here, see if we can find it again. Crying out loud. This is the problem with it. Can never find the same thing twice. We had a presentation, didn't we? Let's get into the presentation and hope that we can do it from there. So where was our presentation? Here we go. Robbie the Robot presentation. Let's get another slide for the next one.
And from Deb says, how about Mary Joseph and the wee donkey?
Do you know, I don't think it would do that. We could give it a go, but I don't think it would do it. Because last night I asked it, I looked at the presentation it had done about Manchester United, and I thought there's nothing on the 2000s, so I did that. That worked. And then I asked it to document the Tommy Docherty years. And it stopped and it gave me a message and it said, this is too political. Now, I know he left in disgrace, but I wouldn't have thought that would impact his years at the club.
No.
It wouldn't do it. So sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't do it. Right, where are we? So let's do a text to image here. Right, so what was the first one there, which was Carol's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A camera. Oh, hang on, let's spell it right. Camera with a long lens next to a tree. Right, let's try that. Oh, it's exciting. See what we'll get. Oh, these are nice cameras, aren't they? Although that one looks a bit weird. Let's have a look at that one. It's actually got the camera on the tree. What does that mean? A long lens next to a tree. Let's have a look. That looks a bit weird to me, but maybe Carol's got a camera that looks like that. Let's have a look at this one. This one looks like it's coming out of the tree. If you want that's amazing. So let's put that one in. That one's nailed to the tree. I think I'd probably go for that one. What I might want to do with that is edit some of the name on it or something like that. So what do you think, Carol? Let me know. Right, what was the next one we wanted? All right, let's go into here. This was a... Shall we give it a clue and let it know that it's a Samoyed dog?
Yeah.
Playing in the snow. Right, I'm going to like this. If it's good, to like it. If the dog's got two heads, I'm not going to be pleased. So let's move this. Oh, it's a Biscuit Sammy. We have a Biscuit Sammy in the house wearing a jumper. Do they not realise that Samoyeds go as nature intended? This one's cool. Oh, look at that. That's a boy. That is definitely a boy. Hasn't he got smooth fur? Lola's blowing her coat at the moment. She's decided she's not bothered. Oh, he's a bit grumpy, isn't he? That's just about meeting the breed standard, I think, in terms of colour, but I'm not sure about the jumper. And let's have a look at that one. That one looks very similar to this one. Which would say to me, if it's making these up on the fly, that's the same dog. And that one, which is very majestic looking. Oh, I'm loving that. Excellent. And what was the third one that we had? We had another prompt.
Mary Joseph and the Wee Donkey.
Well, we can try, but I've got a sneaking suspicion. Right. Mary. Hang on. Joseph. Oh, my spelling. It's not my spelling, it's my typing. Joseph. There's no E in there, is there? The E's in the wrong place. That's better. Mary Joseph. Oh, no, actually, it was Jesus, Mary and Joseph, wasn't it? That's where it's going to get upset. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and the Wee Donkey. I wonder if it'll come up with the Wee Donkey. Oh, I was trying to delete that last word. Oh, let's cancel that and start again. Right, donkey. Doesn't have a T on the end. I'm an idiot. Tracy's in the house just after we discussed Catalonia. Would you believe that? Just after we had, well, it was Catalan on the screen. Good grief, it's done pretty well with that. Oh, who's impressed by that? There's the donkey at the side. Looks a bit like a goat, but never mind. I'm liking those two. And what we've got here? These are brilliant. Just need to slap Line of Duty on the top of that and we're good to go. Oh, good grief. That was genius. If it had just had Line of Duty on it and it'd have had Ted, just a Ted Hastingism on there. But, you know, some of these aren't bad. What I've noticed with them is no matter what size you're working to, they're always square, which seems a bit odd. But it's not a bad start. As long as you ask it for the right thing, you'll be good to go. So you tell it what images you want and it creates them. I have no idea as to the copyright of this. And image rights. I have no idea, but I'm sure we will face that down the line. Right, what else have we got here? I will keep the rest for next week, but what I will do is, so Tracy doesn't miss it, I'll go back to my library. We were demonstrating the translate feature of Canva, and I had got some an introvert thing here. Introvert bingo I was playing, and obviously it's in English, and I was translating it. So tonight we did German and French, but so I had something ready in case it was offline. I did Dutch and Catalan. So we did Dutch for Renee, he's reneged on us tonight, and I did Catalan. So let's zoom in, and we'll have Tracy's opinion on how accurate this is, because I've got no idea. So this was edition, so I presume it's reversed. So I'm thinking that's not bad. And then we've got these. Have you noticed how many E's there are on here? And VA, starting with VA. Oh, that's not translated quiet time. Interesting. So there we go, Tracy. That was what I did. So let us know in the chat. Mark it out of 10. I didn't actually write the original. Canva did. And obviously Canva's used the translate to translate it. But there we go. That's what we were looking at. So I will pick up next week on all the other magic stuff they've added, because there's a whole load more stuff. Can't get into all of it tonight. Honestly, there's that many new features, but that's something to be getting on with, ready for next week, isn't it? So do we have any last questions on that?
No, nothing.
Right, okay then. We will get that out of the way, and we will get back into here. Oh, we have freebies. Are you ready with the links, Mike? We've got this, which I've found this place that's giving away free artwork every day, and I just love I love the idea of Laughter Day. I'm not sure if it's an official thing. If not, it should be. But then living here, we never stop laughing. We've got our very own little army of cute robots to keep us entertained on a daily basis. So that was the first one, and the second one that I've got is a font called Untrouble, an elegant futuristic font. And as soon as I saw that, I had an idea for a demo. So download that. We will be returning to that for a demo in the future. So download it, have a look, get it installed, get it ready and ready to go, so you can follow along. So that is our freebies today. Right, heading into Obsidian. So last week I explained the difference between the core plugin called Templates and the community plugin called Templater. Templates being a core plugin means it will work without you enabling community plugins, obviously. And if your needs are fairly simple, templates may well do. But if you want to go more advanced, then you may want to take a look at Templater. So we looked at both, but today I'm going to concentrate on Templater because the stuff that I've got in there is more advanced than you could ever do with templates. But I did say last week, if your needs are fairly basic, feel free to stick with templates. The one thing I will say is if you then decide later you want to move to Templater, there's nothing to stop you transferring all of the quite basic templates into Templater. Because while templates can do simple replacements and simple content, Templater can do that and more advanced replacements, which is what we're looking at tonight. So let's go and get my demo vault, because my other vault's open. Oh, come on. There we go. Right, demo vault. Let's get that on the screen. So first of all, you're going to need to make sure that you've got it installed. So into the community plugins that you have and make sure that you actually have it installed. If you don't, then click on Browse, type Templater, and it will be listed there. Obviously, it's already saying I've got it installed. That's why I've got the purple flash. So once it's installed, you will need to make sure that it is enabled. If it's enabled, it will be shown in your community plugins at the bottom. So there is Templater. I can't remember what changes I made last week, but I do know the first thing you will need to set up is a location for your templates. So I use Para as an organisation system, which is projects, areas, resources and archives. So as far as I'm concerned, anything to do with internal functions of Obsidian is a resource. It's an Obsidian resource, so it's in resources Obsidian and then / whatever type of resource it is. So that's where my Pomodoro page is, and that's where my templates are. So we set that up at the top. And I don't think we made too many changes in there, apart from that. So if we go across to resources, there is Obsidian at the top level. And in there, I've got 2 folders because we demonstrated this. We had the templates in the templates folder, and we had templater, and in there we had the daily note, and I just showed it to you. I did not explain how it worked. So let's take a look at the notes one. So this was what I built up for the notes, and it's fairly basic because I'm not expecting it to replace anything. It is literally just plain text in there. So I do need to put the date in whenever that is, and I do need to put the time in where you can see it says XX and the presenter. But I'm not going to know that information necessarily at the point that I create this note, because if you only create the note at the point of taking the note, you could have that date automatically inserted. I don't do that. I create these pages as placeholders during my weekly review on a Sunday. So I can't have it replacing anything. Now, to simplify things, that was our note, and then I've got this daily note in here, which was fairly basic. To simplify things, if you are going to move to templater, I would suggest that you move all your templates to templater, because it doesn't make any sense to use the same, to have different shortcut keys for different templates based on whether they are in templates or templater. I did that at the beginning, and mine were Command and T for templates and Command Option T for templater. And I used to have to stop and think, which one is it in? It doesn't matter. Just use templater if you have a need for templater at all. So this is what I would do if you decide to do that, this is how I would do it. I've got this daily note, and this is a templates daily note. It's a basic one. It changes the date and it puts the time in, and that's it. I'm not going to need that one because we do have this more advanced one here. So I would then delete that daily one from there. My Build a Second Brain notes, there's nothing in there that relies on templates at all. All we've got are headings and text here, and the meta box at the top is what's called a call out. So it's very simple. So I could actually move this into the templater folder like that. That leaves me with the templates folder and nothing in it. I could actually delete that and disable the templates entirely and replace the whole thing with templater, which is what I would actually do. So we're at that point that we've done that. So let's take a look at why templater is better. And as I say, templater can be used with something as simple as this. So if I create a new note and I want to take notes, it could be Build a Second Brain, it could actually be anything, but we'll say it's Build a Second Brain. I use the shortcut key to access the templates directly. What is listed in that drop down? There is one entry for every file that is in the templater folder. So we have BASB notes and we have the daily note template. Note that it says templater. That's because I had 2 in there and I didn't want them called the same. So I want to use this BASB notes. I press enter, it puts it in, and I'm good to go. If I wanted up here to put in today's date, I would Command and P, type date, press enter, it puts the date in. And if the time for this was when we started and the presenter is me, I would just put that in there. And that's it. So that's a very basic template. It doesn't need any of the special features or functionality that you will find in templater, but you can transfer your basic templates into templater and use one plugin. Right, but we need to get cleverer than that, don't we? So I'm going to get rid of everything that's in there. And we'll take a look at some basic stuff here. So if I wanted to put a date in there, now you might be thinking, well, I can / date, but you might want it automatic, particularly if it was the daily note. So this is the daily note. We can now get rid of the word templater at the end because when we don't have one in templates. And we can see that we've got some code in here. We've got code at the top and we've got some code in the middle. So what that did, if you remember, so we're now in our new note. So there's two ways to access your templates. Either create a dedicated shortcut key, which I have done. So if we go into hotkeys and you type in templater, there are 4 shortcut keys that you can configure. The one I'm using is that one. Open insert template modal, which means it takes me straight to there. Mike can never remember that, bless him. But you can remember Command and P, can't you? Actually, he does ask me repeatedly, but Command and P gives you access to the whole command palette. So if you type in there templater, you will get taken to the templater commands. You will also get shown templates and other things as well. But this top one, it shows you the shortcut key. So if you've created a shortcut key, can't remember what it is, fastest way is Command and P, read what it is in there. Press enter, that does exactly the same as the shortcut key. So if I put this daily note in, that's what we get. Now, let's break that down because it's not right. Right, if today, this is my daily note for today, we're doing okay. And this is actually what my daily note looks like. We have the ability to navigate back to yesterday by clicking that, and it takes us to the right page. We have the ability to navigate to tomorrow, and it takes us to the right page. That is happening because of templater code. These elements are taking us to week 10, 11, and 12. I'm putting those in manually at the moment, but I'm working on trying to automate it. Then we have new note. What's that for? And why do we have Friday? And what's Friday got to do with new note? So the way that I had this set up, to put today's date in here, in fact, it's not today's date that I wanted in there. It's actually the date of the file. So what I mean by that is, if we move forward again, if I were to use my daily note on here, it would be incorrect. So if I show you that, it's incorrect. It's got the correct date, which is tomorrow, but tomorrow is not Friday. And when we look at these, the 23rd isn't yesterday if it's tomorrow either. It's Thursday, and this is Saturday. So that doesn't work properly, but we can do things we can fix that nicely. So I'm going to get rid of that and go back to our new note. So what we now need to do is build up a new daily note using templater commands that will mean this works much better. So that's my new note at the moment. I will use that to sort this out. But what I actually need to open is the daily note. So I'm opening the daily note itself, and this is where the code is coming from. So this is the code that I actually have in there. But I'm going to delete it. Let's remove it. Let's remove the whole thing. Right, that's all the automation gone. So I want up here to have navigation to go to yesterday and tomorrow. And in here, I want this to have today's date, and I want it to be followed by the actual day. So we need to understand some of the codes that it actually has. So we'll start off with something incredibly simple, which is today's date. There's a few ways we could do that. We could actually use date functions to do that. But I'm not going to do that because it makes no sense for the way I work. If the date that appears in this daily note is always today, that does me no good trying to create a note for tomorrow. It's going to have all the wrong dates, as we've seen. But the date itself is the file name. So if we could hook into that, that would be great. We could just use the file name. You should have an idea here. That may be why we saw the word new note instead of a date. So what you need to do, this is the daily note template itself. I'm going to start telling it that there's some code coming in here. So I open the square brackets. I need to put a return there so I'm not too close to that line. So open the square brackets and put a percentage sign in. I know there's stuff after it that's looking very upset now, but that will fix itself. So I need to access templater, and that is TP, followed by a full stop. Now, do I want something to do with the configuration of it? Do I want something to do with a date? Do I want something to do with the file, or do I want to access the front matter? Well, you may be drawn to a date, and you could do that. So if you go down to date and press enter, and then another full stop, you could say, oh, look, now, or tomorrow, or yesterday. It can do it itself. And yes, it can. That would be one way to do it. Right, if we put that in, let's try it. Well, you could do that. The problem with that is it will always give you the same date. So if it's today and I want to create a note for next Friday, I would have to manually edit it. But the page for next Friday already exists. So if we look at it, there's the page for next Friday. But if I put this in, going to be the wrong date. But the page exists, remember that. There is the page, it exists, and there's the title of the page. So back into here, we will change that. Let's go back to here. What if we use the file name? So change that from date to file, and then put another full stop in it, and then what do you actually want? So I don't really want the content, and I don't want when it was created or the creation date or any of this. I'm going down here looking at what options I actually have until I get down to title, and it tells you it retrieves the file's title. That should work then. So put in title, and that's actually it. All I then need to do is tell Obsidian I've finished with the code that's needed. So close that with a percentage sign and an angle bracket. Now, if I want that in there, I would like it to be a heading 1. So I will put that in there. Let's lose that so we can see better. There we go. That's now going to be a heading 1. So remember where we are. This is the template version. This is the daily note, how we are defining it. Right, we will over here open up that new note. There's our new note. And let's apply it to that. Now, will it work? It will, but it won't have a date. It will say new note. That is proving the point. It's accessing the title of the note. So far, so good. If we navigated to tomorrow or next week, there's next Friday, and we put in the daily note, now it's got the correct date. Fabulous. Love that. But we also need yesterday and tomorrow. But we don't want it to be yesterday, which was the 23rd, and tomorrow, which is the 25th. We would need it to work properly. We would need this to actually look at the title of the note, read that in, and then work out from that what yesterday was and what tomorrow was. That is what we would actually need. That's where it gets a little bit tricky, but we can do that. So I have my code. I've got code in a block here. So let's move that so I can actually see it. Right. So we know that we can put today in. If you want to see the code for today, I will go here and put it at the bottom. So what I'm saying there is TP template .date.now, and I'm giving it a format. That's the daily note. If I go over here, you can see the problem. As I put it in, it's correct. It's the 31st of March. There's the 31st of March, but this is today. So that's why I'm using the file name. So this will work on any day. But what this tells us is all about formats. So you can see the date has come in as year and month and day because I've specified it that way. So if I were to change this, and I just put in, for example, a DDDD, that is only going to return the day. So what would that look like? Same process, just apply the daily note. And today is indeed Friday. So it's exactly the same instruction, you just change the format that you want. If you'd like it to say Friday, and then a dash, and then the full, we'll put in DD, meaning the number of the day. Follow that by month. So we'll have that in full, and year as well. And let's apply that one. And all you're doing is changing the format. I needed more D's. I only put one in. Right, let's put one in. I needed to put one in. Right, let's do that. And apply that. Now we've got the 5th, and now I've got month, and the month's gone crazy. Oh, what have I done wrong? Oh dear, never mind. Right, I'm showing you this to show you that there are different formats. The most important thing being the DDDD, because we're going to need that if we want this to look right at the top. So that's working with dates as in today. What else do we have? Right, I'm going to need to put in extra code here to pick up the actual day. So the way I have it looking, we haven't got one that's correct, but let's do this. It would look like that. But this text is not coming from today. Like this text down here came from the fact it is actually Friday. We want this to come from the fact that the 31st of March is a Friday, which is slightly different. So we need some code for that. And I have got some code here. So I'll paste it in and I will explain it. So I'll put it down here and then transfer what we need and explain it. So this bit at the beginning is identical to what we have up there. That's followed by a dash. So let's go and put the dash in, space, dash, space. And what I then need to put in is the day. So what I've actually got here is some code to do that. I'm going to paste it so it's bigger and I explain what it actually does and in what way it is different. Right, rather than just saying now. So I've opened up the fact it's code again, and I've asked templater to get the date from now, and I'm looking for it in the format of just the day word, not a number. I don't want any offset on that, but I want you to take the title of the note in the format year MMDD and use that as the date. So it's a little bit more complicated, but that is what it's doing. This bit's easy. Template of file title, you're done. This one, you need to tell it what the date actually is based on the file name, and then ask it to show you what day that is. Let's see if it works. Wouldn't it be terrible if it didn't? Right, coming over here, let's get rid of that. And let's do it again. So, daily note, let's put that in. And it has indeed put Friday, but can we actually say that's working at the moment? Because today is Friday. If I'd rabbited on for another 35 minutes, it would be Saturday, but it's not. Today is Friday. So a good way of checking that is by opening up a different day. So if I go into open in here and I am looking to open up 03:30, which should be Thursday. Let's open up that one and see what it does. It's working. It knows that the 30th of March 2023 is a Thursday. That is such a time saver for me because it means I can create my daily note in hand. I don't have to rely on using now, which means I can't create it till midnight, which I was doing at the beginning. But you need to understand that, or at least get the code from somewhere and copy and paste it. Right, have you got any questions about that point?
There is a question from Carol, which is more of a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using Templater and set up the daily note, but when I click on a date in the calendar, it doesn't use the template template.
That can be fixed. I will show you how to fix that. You have the ability to tell it to use a particular template in a particular folder. Now, the way I've done my calendar, the reason that I don't have that problem is that my days already exist. So if we go into the periodic notes and we look at 2023 and we look at April, already there. And that's because I work in hand. So I put things in here. So if we look at that one, it's my 31st anniversary with Mike. So anniversary, I'll be right with that, yeah. Can't spell, there's an S in there somewhere. Right, I would put that in there. So that's why my days exist. If yours don't, there will be a default location where those pages are placed. Probably this level, periodic notes, daily notes, whatever you've called it. So what you would need to do is set it up so Templater knows to use a particular template when you create something in that folder. It's as simple as that. That is available. We go back in here and we go to Templater. You actually have down here, that's when it starts. Where's the folders? It's in there somewhere. The sidebar one. That's the JavaScript one. It's in there somewhere. I will find that and we will set it up. But that's how you do it. You tell it to use a specific folder, or you attach it. You attach the template to the folder. Right, so let's get back to where we were, which was that one, and that was Thursday, and that was good. Right, the last thing I need to add to this is my navigation at the top here for yesterday and tomorrow. But remember, it's not yesterday and tomorrow based on what day it is today. It needs to be based on the name of the file, and that's where it gets tricky. But I did do it. So let's have a look at that code. So I'll bring the code in and explain what it's doing. Oh, it's not letting me copy. Come on. Right, here we go. So in that bit there, and I'll make it a heading 1, although I don't have it as a heading 1, so it's a bit bigger. So what I want this to look like is, in fact, if we apply it, we can see it, can't we? Right, let's put that in. Right, what I want it to look like is that the angle brackets are merely an indication to me that that's navigation. This is obviously yesterday, if today was the 30th of March, and this would be tomorrow, if it was the 30th of March. So how does this get to that? Right, there at the very beginning is the angle brackets, opening and closing. That's just standard content. That could say Freddy the Fox. It doesn't matter. It's just text. The code starts here, and that is the first block of code. The square brackets around it means it's a link. That's what makes it clickable. But inside it, you've activated Templater. You've said get the date of now, and then you've taken one off it. But you've told it that now is actually the title of the file. So that bit there gets the title of the file and tells this that that is today, but then it takes one off it, and that is what enables it to find yesterday based on the page you are actually in. The other one is exactly the same. It goes from that instruction there to the end of the instruction. Does exactly the same. The templater, date, now, this is the format, but it says add one to it. And this last bit there is you telling it that actually the date of now is the title of the file. And that is what it looks like. That's not how I have it looking. I don't have that as a title. I have it looking like that. So if we were to apply that, that would actually be my daily note. Now, do these work? Now, they're not going to work particularly in terms of where the files would actually live in the end if they don't exist. If the files don't exist, where would they be created? They'd be created in the default location that you have your daily notes. Mine are already organised. So it should go back to the 29th, and I should be able to put in my daily note and it work for the 29th. The 29th is Wednesday, the day before is the 28th, and the day after is the 30th. It's fabulous. Because for me, on a Sunday, weekly review, I'm creating my pages for the week and I'm populating them, and they are very busy. And that enables me to have the week sorted. I don't want to have to wait until the actual day. And that is what Templater can enable you to do. So I would particularly do that. Now, there's a couple of useful Templater features that you can use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new page. What if you wanted to add the creation date or the modification date to a page? So let's put in creation date. What I'm going to do with this is create a whole new Templater entry. Right, the creation date is fairly straightforward. Remember what you need to do. You need to start by telling it, I'm going to write some code. Then you need to tell it it's to do with Templater. Full stop. What do we need now? Well, it's to do with the file. So you need to move down to File. And then another full stop. And what do we need to do with that? Well, what we're doing this time is choosing a creation date, which happens to be there. And you can put after that the brackets where you would put formats, etc. But let's just leave it as that. Keep it fairly simple. That's our creation date. So in any page, I think we had our new one, didn't we? Let's open up our new note. This was created 20 minutes ago, something like that. We go up there. Why is that creation date not available? That was going to be our template. We're going to pull it in wherever we needed it. But what we didn't do was move it. It's in the inbox. So I would need to move that to the Templater folder. Now it will be available for use when I go in here. So there's the creation date, and it puts the creation date and time in there, and it was indeed 24 minutes ago. If you just want that available, that's the date and the time, that's fine. If you want to not have to type creation date, then go into the template and put that in the template. And this time when you use it, it will put that in. If you want any formatting in there, it will put that in. If you don't want it to have creation date because you may want to type that, then take it away. Formatting is completely up to you. So that's the creation date. All right. The next one is probably going to be the modified date. So we'll use a bit more code in there. So I'm going to copy this in. So we need to create a new page. This one's going to be modification date. And I'm going to put some code in. But before we do anything else, let's move it so it's in the right place. Let's move it to Templater and paste in there. Right, let's make this a H1 so we can see it. And you've got the same options here, the TP, the file, last modified date. Inside the brackets this time, I'm going to format it. So we could have done that with the other one. Let's keep it simple until we come on to the next one and then show you the formatting on the next one. If you wanted that in a different format, you could do that. It would make sense at the beginning to put, let's put modified. You could put modification date, modified, whatever. So I'll put modified. Go into our new note and this time bring in modification date. And that was last saved 10 seconds ago. There we go. Another way to use those kind of things, it's all very well having that available to insert, but you might want that available in every file or in a template that you create. So putting it in one by one doesn't make sense. But what you could do is say like notes meta and come into here and then start getting ambitious with it. So we know we've got the modified date there, so we can copy that and put that into here. In fact, it makes sense to copy the whole lot, doesn't it? So let's put that in there and put created above that. So we must have here created. There's our creation date. It would make sense with these, just from a logical perspective, that you had the same format. So either copy this format in the brackets at the bottom to the brackets up there, or take the format away and rely on the default one, whatever you want. So if we come into our new note and we delete what we've got, let's see if we can do that. Did I put that in the right place? Notes meta. No, I didn't. So let's move that to templater. Come into the new note. And there's our notes meta at the bottom. And there's our data. Not bad. But we can do a little bit better. So let's get rid of that and creation date and go back into here. Right. We have the option to use callouts. And I think the one I use is info. It'll do. Right. So, note meta. And the contents of the note, so what a call out is just a pretty way to display information. We can merge the two here. If we took that, which is our code, and we put it in there where we have the content, and I need to move that back there so they're lined up neatly, that is what we get. So if we come over here and insert that, so our notes meta at the bottom, then we have our notes meta at the top of the page, and now we can just start typing. And it looks pretty, although I probably wouldn't have it in that format. But there you go. So that is a few things that you can do with Templater. It can go even further than that. There are more automations. So if you let me know if you would like to see even more about Templater, because what you can do with the Templater plugin is link it up with other plugins and create even more advanced automations. But if your requirements are incredibly basic, stick with templates. There's no point fiddling. If you are trying to future-proof or you already have more advanced requirements, then move to Templater. Set it up with a few items, get used to it, and then you can move on and start linking these things together. So you can link it with Quick Add and all kinds of other things. Do we have any questions on that?
Carol said, is it possible to paste the code into the chat?
I don't know if it would take it. It might not. But what I'll do is I'll put all this code together and I will get it to you in some kind of way. I'll attach it with the mail, with the links. Remind me, Mike. Put it down as an action item or it'll never get done. But I will share all these codes with you and explain the format of the dates and stuff. So do we have anything else?
No.
Oh, Carol says more.
Yes, I'm just sticking that down.
Okay, that's what we'll do. And I'll sort out your folder issue. I haven't actually done that. I'm really reticent. When I set something up, it's like, does it work? That's fine. Let's stick with it for a week and see how it goes. Because I think if you try to be too clever at the beginning, you build something that you think works and then down the line you find out it doesn't. So for instance, if you're checking that the code you've written returns Friday and it happens to be Friday, it's never not going to return Friday, is it? Tomorrow you find out it's broken. So I tend to build these things up slowly. I've been using a daily note since I started because I was used to it in Rome. And I've not bothered automating it, but I have now automated it. So now I am an even happier bunny. But that's how I go about it. Build it up slowly, because otherwise something will break and you may not notice until it's catastrophically broken. And then I've got to backfill and fiddle with things. But okay then, no problem. Right, okay, we will head off then at that point. So what do we have coming up? Next Friday, we will be back with more with Carol. And next week, for those who have been out of sync for 2 weeks, we're back in sync. We're changing our clocks on Sunday. I'm losing an hour. I'm going to be grumpy.
No, you're not. Oh, you are.
I am. What do you mean, no, I'm not? Why am I not, Mike? Am I living somewhere else?
No, we are losing an hour.
We are. Spring forward, fall back, remember?
I told my mother we were gaining an hour.
Oh, good grief. Get her back on the phone. she'll think you're gaslighting her. You'll have to apologise and say you were wrong. Oh dear, that won't end well, will it? Right, available on demand, we have everything on the channel. So, youtube.com/Elaine Giles. We have an After Hours playlist, which has all the After Hours on it since time immemorial, going all the way back to 2018. You can find that at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. You love us. Give us a like, and hopefully YouTube won't eat them this week. Be nice if it didn't, just saying. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and that way you won't miss anything. In case you're at the gym or something like that, Jammy. Just saying. Right, there's also my list, which is elainegiles.com/VIP. Am I announcing something this week on that? I think I am. So you might want to be on that one. And there's also the MacBites list, where you get first notification of MacBites episodes. Oh my, there was a MacBites episode this week. We were almost as shocked as you. So that is macbites.co.uk/MacBites-mail. So it's the MacBites mail that gets the invitations to the After Hours. I'm going to be asking my list if they want to know about the After Hours or not, because some of them are only interested in Affinity and they are not interested in the other stuff we do, like Canva and Obsidian. Right, we also keep the conversation going on Slack, where we carry on the conversation. If you want to join, you need to go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack. That is the QR code. It's completely free. It's like Twitter, but without the toxicity, is how I always describe it. Ask questions during the week, make suggestions for content, etc. Bill and coo when there's a new MacBites. That'd be good. Right, if you are already a member, then you can get to Slack with macbites.co.uk/Slack, just in case you forget where Slack is, which I do all the time. It's like, oh, if it's not in an app, it's like I have no idea where it is. So that will get you there. Right, other than that, I do believe we are sorted. So what questions do we have? Do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions.
No questions? Honestly, what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? So did we ever hear from Tracy how accurate the Catalan was?
Yeah.
And how accurate was it?
Scooted back quickly and found the Catalan bit weird. Tenses are slightly wrong and they're inconsistent with the person of the verb. I could understand what the phrase was getting at, however.
That's pretty much how I am with any language. I wouldn't expect it to be 100% accurate. Maybe it would be better if it was proper written Spanish or Catalan content. If the English content was a written paragraph, it might do better. If you think about what that was, which to me is the kind of content I might want to put out in a different language, I could read the Dutch one at the bottom and know instantly that said, "What's your score?" even though I don't speak Dutch. So sometimes it's easier to recognise than others, but it will only get better. It will only get more accurate. At least you could understand what it was about. I picked Catalan specifically. Not that I would have been able to tell the difference. How much difference is there, Tracy, between Catalan and Spanish? I think I know two Spanish-speaking people, apart from you. And no, I wouldn't understand much at all. I made myself understood in French, didn't I? But there was a lot of gesticulating involved, pointing at things. As long as you can ask how much and where the toilets are, I don't think it really matters. Other than that, I can get Google Translate out. Right. Jammy says subscribe for 3 years. Excellent. So we've really got no questions on that.
No.
Oh, Carol liked that. I'm presuming the awesome comment was to do with Obsidian and Templator. It can do amazing things. It really can. The game changer for me was being able to put the weekly note, the daily notes together in hand. And I couldn't do that initially. I think there've been additions and extensions to what Templator can do. My next job is to try and use what features it has, so I can ask it to work out the 3-week numbers. What is the week number this week and what was the week number last week and next week? I only need it to calculate the week number this week, and then I can just take one away. But I'm not sure if weeks are something that it actually understands. So I'm not overly bothered about that. The week notes that I have underneath, I can change the template every Sunday. And if I have the notes for next week in hand, then I would change it at the end of that. But if I can get it to work, then I will. But there's a lot of trial and error involved and stuff like that. Jamie wants to show me what? Set up for something. I need to put my glasses on, don't I? Oh, I don't know. Put my glasses on.
I would love you to show us your setup for live streaming, apps you use, equipment configuration, etc.
Right, okay. I'll add that to the list, Mike. We'll add that to the list. Short version, anything that's needed. Longer version, it's not the actual going live, the hooking up of my desktop to YouTube that's probably the most difficult part. It's making stuff look smooth that's an issue. So if you think about the way I work with the presentation, when we started After Hours, it was run from a post-it note on the desk. That if that sounds silly, it was going to be a one-off show. And it was like, what we're doing, it's on that post-it note, Mike. And that was how we ran it. That was 2018, wasn't it? We actually ran Brooklyn's 196 like that the first time we did it. And I think it took 5 minutes before I said, this isn't going to work. We were getting, Brooklyn's 196, if you don't know, was the radio station for the social group that we were involved with. And we started a music show on a Saturday night when we went into lockdown. Again, that was going to be a one-off, wasn't it? Don't know how this happened. So then it ended up being like nearly 2 years. But it was music. So we had to have a way of capturing the music, a way of having the jingles, a way of broadcasting audio live, but not video. All these things getting embroiled. So we ran that from a post-it note until we switched to Notion. Notion should have worked, didn't it? Should have worked. It didn't. We ended up, it's like, I can't do that. That's not working. So we ended up in Google Sheets for that. So it's actually the supporting applications where the work happens. So with the presentation, it was like, I'm going to create a presentation and I'm going to put some photos in it that we took when we went to Dunham. So we have a place locally, which is a National Trust property, and you go visit and look at the pretty flowers. Only at Christmas, they have a Christmas trail. It was fabulous. What were you like with that marshmallow? It was about 1.5 miles, and they had fires going. They had massive reindeer. It was brilliant. So we had loads of pictures. So I said, well, it makes sense, rather than just opening up photos from the Finder, to put them in a presentation. Which was when I found out, I think, that, oh no, we were using Keynote, weren't we? PowerPoint doesn't do that, but Keynote does. So I created this presentation and I thought, oh, well, I'll just put an intro on that bit. And then I thought, well, I might as well put a slide that represents the other bits. Obviously, your problem with that is it's okay for showing photos. But if each section of the show is a practical demonstration, you've got to get from your presentation to your desktop without offending the attendees. And what I mean by that is it pushes all of my buttons when I'm at a session and I can see the interface of PowerPoint because you're presenting from slide sort of view. Don't do that. God, it's not that difficult. But their problem is if they go full screen with PowerPoint, they can't see the chat. They can't see the controller. You can't see it. No, neither can I. But there are ways around it. And that's a bugbear with me, isn't it? Which am I more annoyed about, Mike? People parking on the pavement or people's use of PowerPoint?
Close run thing.
It is a very close run thing. But I just think it's lazy if you're presenting to just think, well, I need to see the chat, so I'm not actually going to go into presentation mode. So you can, well, you can't at the moment because I've switched you. But let me show you.
I did that last night.
Right, I've got that. Let me switch you back.
But you weren't in the room to tell me off.
That's all right then, isn't it? Right, so you're looking at Obsidian at this point, which we've just done. But if I am... Where have we gone? Where have we gone? Oh, that's funny. It has actually vanished. Oh, just a minute. Good grief, it's installing PowerPoint now. Wow. Let me get this sorted out. I'll switch you back to there for the moment and I'll get this sorted out. What on earth happened with PowerPoint? How can it install it when I'm already running it?
I've just been into Slack.
Yeah.
And somebody has now updated their marathon status to up to date for Marooned.
Oh, that's Tracy.
And thanks you.
That'll be Tracy, won't it?
That is Tracy.
Right, let's get this working. You're losing... I'm losing the will to live because you're losing my mind. Right, let's get that back where it was. Where were you? Where were you? That means Tracy needs another certificate now. Right, we were there. So I'm going to get that going. And then I will switch you back. Your screen will dim slightly while I do that. But you won't see a massive difference. So, see it dim slightly. Right, you've just gone from me sharing something in my app to sharing my slides. My slides, of course, can go backwards and forwards, as they do. So if I go back to the subscribe bit and I start moving through my slides, these are my slides. But at any point, I can just come out of it. You don't see PowerPoint. I don't see PowerPoint. It just disappears. And then when I come back into it, you don't see me go into it either. It's not that difficult to do that, and people don't do it, and that drives me insane. I will say that's why, if I move back a bit and take you through the freebies. So there's the freebies. I move the slide on. I wasn't doing a demo, so I moved the slide on. Then I give you a rundown of what we did last week, like that. And we're looking at advanced replacements. And what you see on the screen next is a black slide. And then I come out of it. And then when I'm done, I go back in to a black slide. And the next slide is then the coming up slide. Like that. It's not rocket science and people don't do it. It drives me insane. So yes, that's a really good idea, that, Jemmy. I can vent about all my little frustrations, can't I? Have you got any other ideas? Apart from the awarding of a certificate to Tracy.
Tracy says no certificate needed, just loving the content.
Oh, we started talking about TV, didn't we, on that last one? It was just a right old natter. In fact, as I was putting the shows together, I thought I didn't do the Welcome to Marooned at MacBites headquarters. Day 1095. I totally forgot. I should have put that in post, shouldn't I? But it actually, I had left it so long, it was like, where are the files? And what did I call them? And do I still have them? But I did, and it's all sorted. Then we had the update issue, didn't we? I published it. I said to Mike, you just check these files. They're not coming through. So the caching had gone again on the site. So Mike had to push buttons and pull levers, and then it was there, which was fantastic. But I thought you might find it, even though the thing was marked as complete. I thought you might just find it. So I'm very glad that you did, and I'm very glad that you enjoyed them. Okay. Oh, what's that? What's Tracy telling me about the differences between Catalan and Spanish?
There's about the same amount of difference between Catalan and Spanish as between Spanish and Portuguese.
Oh, no, I would have thought that was quite a lot, because when Jose Mourinho was in charge at United, a lot of people called him Jose. So there's Jose and Jose, and obviously it's spelt the same. And he was definitely a Jose, wasn't he? But you've got a friend, and he's a Jose.
Oh, I keep calling him Jose.
And Mike's just
Actually, I call him Jose because I correct myself.
That's now become his name, really, hasn't it?
That's become his name.
I think it being spelt the same is what would throw me. But, you know, you do have to think. And another word in Portuguese is obrigada and obrigado. And apparently, yeah, it's a male and female, isn't it? But isn't it the person that's saying it, not the person that you're speaking to, which would just confuse me? It would totally... I'm languages, no. My skill set lies elsewhere. My skill set is totally tech. I was actually thinking, can you imagine? Because I was actually okay at French in year one. I changed schools. I moved from a school called Lim Grammar to Sale Grammar, which you would think they're both grammar schools. They'll be the same. No, they weren't. They had two completely different syllabuses. So year one, we spoke French. Year two, it was like, year one where I was, we spoke it. Year one at Sale, they wrote it. So when when we started, I remember this teacher, she was a new teacher and she didn't know us from Adam. So she didn't know that I hadn't been there the year before. I had to tell her. She came in and she sat down and she said, right, I'm going to do some dictation. And I thought, pardon? So she explained she was going to read something out in French and we had to write it down in French. And I'm looking at my pen thinking I've not actually written any French. Ours was speaking French. You should have seen the mess. Honestly, I don't think there was one word that was probably spelt right. So when everybody went up to hand this work in, they were all like brown-nosing as they do. And, you know, that was marvellous, that was wonderful, here's my attempt. And I goes up with mine and I looked at it and I thought there was that many crossings out. So I said, sorry about this. I said, but I wasn't at this school last year, so I have no idea about written French. Needless to say, I got put in the bottom group and there I stayed. But never mind, I was in the top group for maths. And if we could have got on the computer, I would have loved that as well, but we didn't, so never mind. Oh, Portuguese, you're saying the equivalent of much obliged. Right, with you. Oh, Carol's got a date set up in Obsidian. Excellent. I'll still provide that thing with all the, the modified created and all of that lot in it that you might find useful anyway. And we'll look at what else the magic can do next week. We'll have you up to speed. That's the thing. I mean, we talked about this on MacBites. If you've not heard it, we were talking about Evernote doubling their prices. Not happening. Definitely not happening here. And Mike made the point that Obsidian takes a little bit of setting up. But the thing is, I've been using it for 14 months and I hadn't bothered setting that up. So now I have. It's like having a new app and it like energizes you to use the app because now it's easier. You don't have to use it if you don't want. Evernote will not give you the kind of flexibility that Obsidian will, but I can imagine most people would be put off by the onboarding. But it can do anything. I mean, one of the things I installed, this is just a quick aside, I was reading, I think I mentioned it, I was reading about, someone was asking for people to tell them what were the most important plugins. And the sensible people were going in back and saying it depends what you want to do with it. Don't install the Dungeons and Dragons one unless you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. And somebody said, this is like my core set. And I'm reading it. I'm like, yeah. No, don't need it. And then I read this one and it was remembering the cursor position. And I did the equivalent of like an all brakes screech to a halt and thought, got to install that. And today was the first time since I installed it that I was editing a page and I needed to go to another page to check something and then go back. And when I went back, the cursor was in the right place. And I'm like, that's like magic. It's like you decide what updates the app gets, which to me is priceless. But I can appreciate some people don't want the trouble. But if you could just magically infuse into their head what they'd need to know to use it, I think they'd be as excited as we all are. But there you go. Jammy's got a question. Okay, go on. What's the question? I'm waiting with bated breath for Jammy's question. The excitement of it all. I wonder what it'll be about, Mike. What's the question going to be about?
Something to do with Toblerone.
Toblerone, Thomas. How much Toblerone have you got?
I haven't got any.
You'll have it.
And now it's too late.
What do you mean it's too late?
Too late to put some in the basket.
Oh, right, I'm with you.
Cut-off point's 11:45.
Oh, it'll get there, don't worry. Bartender. Right, what about it?
I use it on a laptop which connects to a 34-inch monitor. Is there a way to have it hide everything on one monitor but have something visible on another? I want to see the battery percentage on the laptop screen but not the monitor.
I don't think at the moment there is. Nearest you'd get to that is leaving it off totally and accessing what you need. So what I mean by that is, let's get over to here so you can see my iMac. Right, I don't have much showing up here at all. So Bartender's looking after most of it. One thing I do access is like drop zone. So I have a shortcut key set up in Bartender. So if I go into Bartender, you have a range of shortcut keys in here. So this one at the top, it looks a bad shortcut key, but it's easy to remember, right? This one shows your hidden items. This one lets you quick search all of your items. So I've got it on all 4 modifiers and space. And I've used the space bar because it reminds me of Alfred and Raycast. And I just know, I don't have to even think what the modifier key is, which one is it? It's all 4 of them. And that lets you search for stuff that's actually hidden. So if I close that down, let's say I want to transfer something to Mike. I need drop zone. So I do that and I start to type drop zone, press enter, and it brings just that to the front and activates it. So in your case, you would search for the battery and it would show you the battery, but it wouldn't nag at you all the time. So if you look at what I've got in here, I don't have certain things in here. So what don't I have? Let's go back into Bartender and have a look. I never access them via Bartender. So these are the standard ones, always hidden, these ones. So forklift, Vivaldi, etc. So all of the, Snagit. So let's say Snagit. I don't have a way to get to Snagit from here. Because if I click here to access Bartender, you'll see Snagit isn't an option. But I don't need it to be. If I want to get to it, I use the shortcut key, Snagit, and there we go. So that's what I would do with it. But no, it doesn't have the ability to separately control each monitor as far as I'm aware of. I'd not tried vanilla for a while, which is a free competitor. So one option would be to try that and see if that does it. Then you'll end up like me with stuff all over the place. Like I'm running Alfred, I'm running Raycast. And when it comes to clipboard extender, I've got 3 running. Now, that might seem excessive, but the other day my main clipboard extender crashed and I didn't know it had crashed until looking back, there's about 2 hours worth not on my clipboard. So if I'd copied something to put it somewhere else, it would have gone. But I have 2 others running as a backup. One is Alfred and one is Raycast. Both of them are backing up the clipboard history. So never be afraid to run more apps than you think you need, because when you need them is when you need them, isn't it? Right, okay then, if there are no more questions, we will head off.
There's one question.
Okay, one question.
When's Tobler and Thomas giving us some lovely Microsoft demos?
Oh, there you go.
I guess it is. Soon, Jammy, soon.
Right, what's that there? I can't read that. Let me try and zoom in here. Why does everything have to be so small? Or is it really my glasses? Oh, we've got my Evernote expired today after many years. You started with it before it was on the internet. Wow. The last price hike was the end. I think it was... I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But it was also the way they did it. They upped their prices in 2015. They upped their prices again in 2018. But this one, they've not actually come out and said this is what we're doing. They're only telling people when it's due. That's just ludicrous. Utterly ludicrous. And the other point I made was that they want you to pay today, and they've actually said this. You know, we want you to pay today so we can invest and make it better tomorrow. But I'm not your customer tomorrow. I'm your customer today. And I would like it to be good today. And I also, another point was Evernote 10, which we'll build the features back as we go. Been 3 years. When are we having a full backup? Just asking. And they don't seem in any way concerned about it. We made the legacy version available. Yes, but all the new features don't work in the legacy version. So your notes are fragmented anyway, which is the beauty of Obsidian as far as I'm concerned. I know it's not for everybody, but the fact that my notes are plain text in a markdown format, so the only difference between my notes and plain text is the extension of the file. So how I got all those days in for the next 3 years, I was using apps that I would use on my system, text editors, file renamers, all kinds of stuff. And it enabled me, I'm sorted till 2025. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to create another daily note until 2025. And I can take that as far as I want. And then when I copy and paste stuff into Obsidian, I can take it through a text editor. So I've got a cohort-based course coming up, and there's 13 live sessions. And I got the titles of these live sessions in an email. In 13 emails. That was good of them. But the title of each email, this would probably make a good demo. The title of each email was the title of the session. But there were 13 emails, which would have meant copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And I thought, no, I've got Text Sniper. So I text sniped the titles of these things and I put them in a text editor. And then to make the pages, all I needed to do was save this file, this text file, as a text file and use Better Finder Renamer to rename 13 blank text files. No, they weren't blank. I created one that had the content that I wanted, the framework for my notes, then I duplicated that and renamed them. Then I wanted to create an index in Obsidian to get to these files easily. And I didn't want to have to do the drag and drop thing to build the index. So again, in this text file, I just selected everything. I went into line edit mode. I wrapped them in square brackets. I went back to the beginning and put a dash in front of them, which made them bullets. And I copied and pasted it. And that's it. Now, I know the average person is not doing that, but Obsidian makes that easy and everything else makes it a living nightmare and difficult. And I don't need a living nightmare and difficult. Simple as that. Sounds like my eyes are worse than yours. Well, you've got to remember here, I'm working on a 27-inch monitor that is not intended to actually read it. It's in fact a monitor that is not supposed to go higher than 1920. I've got it stretched to Retina. It's a wonder I can see anything on it. Right, what else have we got? Text Sniper. Have you not seen Text Sniper, Jamie? It's a very simple utility. I'll demonstrate it next week at the beginning. Put that on the list, Mike. I will demonstrate it. 2 ways to buy it if you are tempted in the week. One is directly from the developer. The other is via the App Store. The developer uses Paddle, which means you're limited on the number of machines you can install it on. If you buy it from the App Store, you are not. So I think I've got both versions, but I use the one from the App Store because I can't be piddling with licenses. But what it does is it enables you to take screen captures of text and make the text editable. It's one of those things that, in fact, isn't that one of your demos for Windows?
For Mac?
No, PowerToy.
Oh, yeah.
He forgets his mind if he left alone. So if you've got something like the error message in a dialog box that's 14 lines long and you can't, you could take a screenshot, but that you can't actually copy and paste the text out of it, that's what Text Sniper's for. So we'll look at it next week. But for the moment, I am going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.